This is the Vertex Podcast. Vertex as in the meeting point between two places. Here is the meeting point between the human and the artist, and hopefully from our conversation to where you are on your creative journey. I'm your host, Yoyocam. I'm an artist and designer based in Stone Mountain, Georgia. My work spans from character designs in video games to large-scale murals in cities all over the world. I'm going to be having conversations each week with creative professionals to get to know more about the human side behind their amazing, amazing work. My hope with that is to show you, the viewer or the listener, that we're all more alike than we care to admit. I'll post the conversations here each week, and my hope is that piece by piece, conversation by conversation, we can all learn that our dreams are also closer and more accessible and achievable than they appear to be. I hope that you can listen to this conversation and find something that resonates with you, something meaningful, something helpful. Enjoy the episode.
What's going on?
Man, it's been a pretty
How did you do?
been
It
a long day for me. Yeah,
has for me too.
I like to have this conversation. Everybody who I've told or has seen that I'm talking to you has been super hyped that it's going down. So
I don't know why I'm not. Ain't nobody.
see, that's what the
Ain't
people
nobody
who are
important.
somebody say. That's some
I don't see myself as anybody significant in that way. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who was like, "Oh man, he's a fool," but I mean, I've always felt like I was pretty regular guy. You know.
I mean, I think that's what makes you so special at the end of the day. I think that people who try to make themselves look and seem like they're better than or so high or so mighty, well, they usually be half of what they say. It's cool that you keep it down to earth. Keep it genuine.
I try to.
For the people
Try to.
for the people who don't know who you are, can you give us just like a little brief intro to who you are if somebody had never seen or heard of you before?
So, people know me across social media and whatnot as ActionHankBeard, but my name is Nuri. It's my actual name. Um, I am currently 36 years old. I am from Chicago, Illinois, originally, but I moved to Atlanta when I was super young, about maybe between 3 and 4 years old. I would say we moved here, and this is where I lived my whole life. Been drawing my whole life. It's always been like an interest and a passion for me. And since a young age, I knew that was something that I wanted to do as far as a career path. I didn't know what form that would take, but um, eventually I would kind of figure it out during like college, around college. And so, yeah, I started out just doing what most people did. Like I would draw through school. I was considered one of the better ones in my class during that time. And it was one of those things that like, I remember at the time, everybody used to do, like all my friends used to draw, but nobody really kind of maintained it after middle school. It kind of dropped off. And I was one of those people who like, I was still doing it. So going into high school, going into college, I'm still drawing, but like I'm starting to really think about which career path am I going to take? What am I going to do with it? Because I know I want to do something with it. And so I kind of just did my own thing for a while. Like I worked as a caricature artist for a short time, which I've talked about a few times, but I didn't really start to hit my stride until like I was posting my work to social media, and that kind of helped me build a little momentum in terms of a following. And from there, I just started like selling my artwork, selling prints, selling original art, selling all that stuff, t-shirts, whatever. And that would eventually lead to me finding work in animation as a character artist and visual development. So uh, that's where I am now. This pretty much what I do currently, I'm not working full time at the moment, but I do some gigs here and there, some visual development here and there. And when I'm not doing that, I'm just doing my own thing, which is generally just like doing my own art, doing my own merch, putting that up and selling it, and taking commission work where I can, or any other gigs that come my way. And that's how I take care of myself, take care of my family.
That's nice. It's so many things that actually I wanna dive into with it. I think that for one, I want to start a little bit earlier in your life. So when it came to I know everybody draws as as a child, you're gonna draw the things that you're interested in, games you play, shows you watch, stuff like that. And I noticed that with the artwork that you do now, it is centered or just really inspired still by those same things that you would watch from before. And it always made me wonder, like, what made those things back then so good that you continue to want to depict them in your own way today, versus what makes it so much better than things coming out recently, or just what makes you go back to that place each.
Well, I mean, I like new stuff too. Um, I'm not just into older things, but with the things that specifically that influence me, like I go back to that stuff a lot in my art, or I do stuff inspired by it. Because for me, when I think back to when I was a kid, I talk about this a lot in terms of like entertainment. I don't like that entertainment falls back on nostalgia to sell people on things, but I think as an individual, I am very much a nostalgic person. All of the things I like are either based on or inspired by the things I grew up with. And those things in particular are what kind of got me into drawing in particular. That, and I would say that, and my older brother, who at the time, he was a really good artist too. And so, like, of course, like the cartoons and the games you play and the comics you read, those are all things that I liked. And in the beginning, I would have my brother draw it for me. I would ask him to draw things for me or teach me how to draw things. And at some point, he just kind of just got tired of it. And I started trying to learn on my own. And that was the beginning of me learning how to draw. So for me, it's more of an emotional attachment, I would say. It's also just that I do think that a lot of the things that we grew up with were just that good. And I mean, it's a reason why today a lot of stuff is everything is based on a reboot or a remake or a reimagining, or you know an animated version of some live action thing, or even animated things being made in live action. It's emotional attachment to it that people have from being kids, and it's an easy sell because everybody's familiar with the IP. But for me in particular, as an individual, like I like making art that makes me happy, and the things from my childhood, they they make me happy. They make me think about a simpler time. Growing up, I we had a pretty hectic upbringing when I was a kid, and like my art for me in a lot of ways was kind of an escape from a lot of that stuff, and like playing a game. So I like using that as a way to kind of like bring me back to like a space where I feel at peace. All of the things like I keep in my office, like I like all these figurines, and I got artwork from other people, and prints and all this other stuff. And it's all mainly just things that I grew up with, things that was influenced by. And even in my own work, even in my personal work, which I don't show publicly all that often, that too is very much influenced by the things that I grew up with.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
I
Well,
think it's important that people surround themselves with stuff that make them happy, or they bring them some sort of like peace. Because I mean, that to me, I feel as though that's when you can create your best work, and that's when you can be like at peace with yourself. Is when you create an environment in which you can kind of just feel like, all right, I like these things that are surrounding me. That makes sense.
yeah, yeah, it does. I heard from a particular post on Insta. It was like some of those like a excerpt from like a book or something. Like somebody took a page out of some sort of book, and it said that you can't necessarily force creativity or inspiration, but you can surround yourself, put yourself in an environment where inspiration is more often likely to strike. So it,
Mhm.
it kind of hits on that same sentiment that you just explained, where it's like you want to surround yourself in these places, and then the ideas just kind of just flow like just like normal. You know, um, are there any things in particular that you make sure to have around you, or even people, or just things that are good for inspiration in your case?
Um, Honestly, I just need to be in a space that's quiet, or a place that's not. Let me not say quiet, because I mean, in my house ain't nothing quiet. I got kids, but a place where it's not chaotic, I should say. Um, as long as I have that, then I'm good, because I'm one of those people who, well, I really honestly, I think this is most people. I can't focus. I can't really do my best art, or really much art at all, if I'm in an environment where shit is hectic and everything is like chaotic. I grew up in that. So I made a habit of drawing late at night, because that's when everybody will be asleep. So I couldn't really be disturbed because everybody's asleep. So when things are like that, it's just, for me, it's nerve wracking. And it's one of the few things, it's why I'm really big on things like, whether it be relationships or friendships, or otherwise, like, I don't like to argue with people. I don't like going back and forth. I don't like being made to have to get angry or like raise my voice and stuff. It's not to say that I don't, or I haven't, but if it gets to that point, it's a bad situation. Because when I'm at that point, I can't do my art, which is like the thing that makes me most happy. And so I prioritize that. And I've been in situations where, like, I can tell a girl this, and it's like, listen, I'm not with that arguing. And everybody says that, and everybody just be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then, like, they want to try and pick at a situation to try and provoke you, and I'm just like, look, two things are going to happen. Either I'm going to cuss you out, which is, if it gets to that point, it's you in danger. It's like a point of no return situation, or I'm just going to, like, not entertain it or block you, because it's like, I can't. To me, I'm prioritizing the things that make me happy over entertaining some foolishness from some any old person. That could be anybody. It don't have to be just some girl. It could be friends, family, anything between. So I like to be in an environment where I can kind of keep my peace of mind. And, like, I have, like, in my office, like, I'm sure people have seen pictures of it. It's just like, it's a bunch of shit that I grew up with. It's stupid shit too. Like, it's Ninja Turtles. Like, it's a big collection of Ninja Turtle figures, because Ninja Turtles had a really big impact on me as a kid. And the Sonic the Hedgehog and Super Mario, and then I got a bunch of books, and, like, I got posters, and I got prints, and I got paintings, and I got pictures of my family. All of these things are things that, like, make me happy, and things that I think about in my art, or just during the day in general. And so I think it's worth it to kind of. It's no different from when you in the workplace and you in the cubicle and you got a picture and stuff up, you little kids or whatever. Be like Homer Simpson when he's sitting there, with his pictures of, like, Maggie and everything. It's not really too much different from that. And I think that because of the way that I grew up, and also not really being able to have a whole lot as a kid, when I got older and when I was able to, I was like, I'm about to start getting all the things that I would have wanted when I was a kid, which I'm sure that a lot of people have done that. And yeah, I got to a point where it's like, all right, I got enough shit in here. I don't even know where to put half these things. I got stuff in my closet that's still in the box. So I don't really buy figures and things like that anymore. But in terms of just making it a space where it's just like, I feel like this is a place I can chill in at any point throughout the day, not just when I'm working, because, like, yeah, I work and my art is my work now, but also it's something that I do in my own free time. And being able to have it be a place where it doesn't feel like a drag to have to come and sit at my desk. Like, some people hate having to go sit at the desk because they associate it with, like, work or something unpleasant. But for me, um, I like being in my desk, because I'm always doing something that I want to do when I'm at my desk, most of the time at least. And if I'm not at my desk, I could be on the couch. I can Maybe we playing the game or watching TV or something while I'm chilling. But overall, like this is like, I mean, if it were a man cave, it would be the same thing. It just happens to be the place where I also like do a lot of my art. So
Hmm.
yeah, I say it's worth it for anybody listening. The lesson is invest in yourself because it's worth it to have that. It don't matter how big or how small it is. Having a little space that you can call your own, having a little thing that you can kind of just retreat to, um, especially if you got to deal with some foolishness throughout the day, whether it be a job or some people you don't like, having that little space that you can kind of carve out and be like, yeah, this is my little corner where I can chill and be at peace. I think that's important. It keep you stress free.
You put such an emphasis on peace and having a safe space and just having a place to be you because the way you grew up, it was in like an environment that wasn't so peaceful. Uh, would you care to speak more on what kind of chaos or just things that were disturbing you in those times?
Well, I come from a big family. I am one of five kids from my mom. And like growing up, she raised us mostly by herself. My dad was around early on, but like I would say after third grade, he was out of the picture. Him and my mom got divorced. And he came back around briefly while I was in middle school, but for the most part, that was that. And I didn't really have a whole lot of privacy. I didn't really have a whole lot to myself because like me and my brother shared a room. Two of my sisters shared a room. My older sister had her own room. And my mom and my siblings and my dad when he was there, and even the men that came after my dad, was always a lot of fighting, always a lot of like bickering back and forth, a lot of chaos. It was at one point where I left home. I went and moved. Uh, I went to go move in with my friend Shad, who you know, because me and Shad we grew up together out here. We went to school together in middle school, and then when we got to high school, um, his family moved to Las Vegas, and so, but we always kept in touch. So for a while, we had long distance friendship. But by the time I got to the 10th grade, I was like, I'm about to leave home. I'm about to go live with Shad. And his mom, his family has always been like essentially like cousins. He's like my auntie. But I left home because I was just tired of being in an environment where it was just like, well, y'all do not shut up, bro. Like I gotta go. So like I left for a time, um, came back home, but then around college I left again, went back out there. But this time when I went out there, it was different. I was out there, but I would say during that time I was running away from like my responsibilities. I wasn't trying to like, cause this is after high school. So like, I'm trying to figure out, all right, what I got to start thinking seriously about what am I doing with my life at this point in time. And at that time, I was just like, I'm not trying to do nothing. I was really just trying to just be a kid and not have to worry about any like adult responsibilities. And like, I knew while I was there, I could do that. And for a time I did until it got to a point where it was just like, all right, my life kind of just passing me by. And I started to see like my peers, people around me, um, they going through college and some of them graduating, they moving forward in their life. And I had to start thinking seriously, like, what am I about to do in my life? Because like I always said I wanted to do something with this art thing. And like I never stopped drawing, but like I wasn't doing anything with it necessarily. So I was like, let me go ahead and go back home. And I went to school. Went to Georgia. Well, I went to a few different colleges, but like in the end, I was at Georgia State. And most of me going to school was more so, I would say, to appease my mom because it was what she wanted us to do because it was kind of the thing a lot of parents want their kids to do. Um, and my mom was one of them kind of moms where it was just like, you can't do nothing. You either need to go to school or you need to go to the military. You can't do nothing. And so I was like, well, I ain't going to nobody military. I ain't got nobody yelling in my face. So I figured I would just go to school. And I was an art major at Georgia State because I mean there wasn't really much else you could do. I had a scholarship for SCAD, but it didn't cover it wasn't a full ride or anything. And I knew I wouldn't be able to afford to go, so I didn't bother going at all. And so I just ended up going to Georgia State. And the whole time I was there, I was just like, this shit feels like I'm spinning my wheels. It feels like I'm not really, I feel like I'm just doing the thing to do it with with no real direction or real explanation as to why, other than like, this is what my parents want me to do. And I was like, I would say a quarter. Well, no, I would say I was more than halfway through to getting my bachelor's, and I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this no more. Like during this time, I was doing that, and I was working as a caricature artist, and I was like, yeah, this. I feel like I'm here wasting time and money, and
Was there a final straw?
I felt like, huh?
Was there a, like, was there a final straw with it? Was there like one thing that happened where you're like, that's it right there?
It wasn't the final straw per se. It was just like me getting more, like progressively more and more just over it. Um, like I hated the commute. I hated sitting through the classes. I hated taking anything. Like I hated taking any class that didn't involve art. And there's a lot, of course, in college, there's a lot of bullshit courses. And it was like, had to deal with that. I'm not into like any extracurricular activities and all that kind of stuff. I don't care about none of that stuff. I'm strictly like, I go to school, I go home. I'm not here making friends. I'm not here talking to no girls. I'm just trying to get this shit over with as soon as possible. And like, even when I'm there, I'm struggling to like stay focused because I'm just like, I feel like I'm just wasting my time because the more I'm there, I'm just feeling as though the things that I'm doing, how does this benefit me in the long run? Does this put me any closer towards my goal? And what even is my goal? I wasn't even entirely sure of that myself, but I knew it wasn't about to be in one of these bum ass classes that didn't have anything to do with like art whatsoever. It was just like a required credit, for my degree. And like, even with an art degree, there's not a whole lot that you can do with that outside of what, maybe teach art. And even then, like, if I was to do that as a career, it's only, I think, maybe probably worth it to do it at a college level, which would have meant getting my master's. So I was like, I'm good on that. So like, what you said, what was the final straw? It wasn't necessarily a final straw per se, but it was a combination of things. And then like, what kind of solidified my decision in that was like, I was working as a caricature artist, as I said, but I was also at this time I was still posting my work online and stuff, and I was doing like little things here and there, and people started to express like a real interest in like just kind of buying my work, supporting me directly, whether it be like prints and whatnot. And so I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and see how people respond to it. So like, it was actually Mia. Mia bought me a printer. She bought my first printer. She was like, you should make some prints of your art and you should sell it. And at this point, we had been together for a while, and we were living together, but we were living in a shitty apartment. And so she had got me that printer, and she was just like, she was supporting me in that decision of just like, yo, you should try and just, do something off your art. So I did that. And the response I got from people was more than what I had expected. I was making more money doing that than I ever was doing like caricature art. And that's the whole story in and of itself. It helped me grow as an artist for sure. Like I don't regret my time working as a caricature artist, but I hated everything about it. I hated the park. I hated the uniform we had to wear. I hated the people I worked with the exception of like a couple. Like Richard, he was cool. Um, but in terms of like some of the skills I took away from it, I was able to apply that to my actual work outside of that. Um, And so when I was doing this thing on my own, like I'm selling my prints and, people are like, I made a little store and I looked at other people who were doing it. I was like, let me try and just make a little online store model after what I see other people doing because they seem to have it figured out. I did that and people responded to it. It was a little overwhelming. So I was like, oh, if I were to probably put all of my skill points into this and not be doing this stupid shit at Georgia State and at Six Flags, probably be okay. And that for me was like that between that and then also Mia, she supported me through it. That gave me the confidence to kind of do it. Cause I mean, it's scary. And I remember when I dropped out, and then when the season was over at Six Flags, after Fright Fest, I had walked because I had to cut my beard and everything. It was the whole thing. I had to cut my beard. I had to wear these geek ass clothes, and I just hated feeling like a bum in that part. And so it's just like I gotta like something gotta give. I can't do this no more. So it was an easy decision to leave them. Um, I also I didn't mention this. I worked at Staples too for a short time. So like that was up until that location closed. And once that location closed, I had the option of going into the next closest location. It was in East Point or something. I was like, I'm good. So I was like, I'm not going back to school. I'm not going back to these jobs. Instead, I'm about to put all of my experience points into this art thing because it's the one thing I feel like I'm good enough at to take a real chance on. So I did that. And I mean, ultimately it worked out. At the very least, I was able to make more money than I was doing any other job that I ever worked. And the best part about it was like, I could do it on my own terms. I could basically draw what I wanted and sell it. And that was pretty much all the motivation I needed to kind of just keep doing it. And like my mom, I remember she wasn't necessarily the happiest about it, because she was concerned about like, oh, if you don't go to school, if you don't finish college, what are you going to do? How are you going to be able to get a job? And how are you going to be? And I'm just like, Mom, you got to understand, like, this school thing, like, you want me to do it, but like, and it didn't trip me out about it. It's like my sisters and them, they went to school. She went to school, came out of school with crazy student loan debt that they still don't want to tell. And I'm just like, y'all about to have me looking like y'all. Like, I don't want to be in this situation. And this is like, and for what? Just to end up doing something that ain't even related to what you went to school for, which is like crazy. And there's a lot of people in that situation. It's one of the reasons that even now, I tell people, like, when it comes to school, particularly people who are into art, like, listen, you can go to school, and I do think that the environment that something like school will provide can be beneficial to artists because you get that hands-on. You can touch on somebody's shoulder and be like, hey, they can guide you. You could be around other people, like particularly if you go to an art school. If I was able to go to an art school, it probably would have been a different story for me. But as far as regular universities and colleges and stuff go, like, yeah, you got to think about it, just kind of just objectively and be practical. Is it worth it for me to go to school, spend all this money doing something that doesn't necessarily align with my career goals, or what I want to do in life? And if the answer resembles anything close to no, then you probably shouldn't go. But for some people, it's harder. It's hard to do that. I have friends who they have parents who have high expectations of them. They wanted them to go to school. They wanted them to take a specific career path. They might be exceptional artists, but like their parents is just like, yeah, that's cool and all, but you about to be doing this lawyer thing, or you about to be doing this dentist thing. And for them, sometimes it's a little bit more, it's probably a harder ask for them to be like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. And I mean, it's one of them things you have to come to that decision for yourself. But what I'm saying is consider the alternative, consider what comes with it, and think about where you might be in the long run if you keep going that way, instead of taking a path that you feel is more true to who you are and it aligns with what you want in life. So yeah, for me, that was it. Cause it was like, I don't, I don't have nothing else outside of my art that I can think of. Like I don't have the most patience. Like I have patience, but I don't have patience for people. And I definitely don't have patience for working with people in an environment where I got to listen to them talk shit. So like anything involving like retail, anything involving difficult people or customers, I'm liable to just either look at you crazy or just kind of just be like, I'm walking. Cause like, I just, and part of this has to do with how I was raised, but like, I'm just like, it's very low tolerance for people's foolishness. And so it's hard for me to be in a situation where I got to like pretend to, smile in people's face and all that. I hate any situation where I got to be anything other than who I am. And that includes certain workplaces. And so being able to do things on my own terms, at my own pace, I think is it's a game changer for somebody like me. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people like me who probably can relate, where it's just like, yeah, I can do this. I don't have to worry about dealing with people. Like, you got to deal with people to a degree, but like, you deal with them on your terms, you know? So if I'm doing something for somebody like a commission, you know, and they come into me for me to draw something for them, I dictate the terms of engagement, you know? And if the person comes to me and talks to me crazy, there's nothing stopping me from cussing them out, because this is like, I'm not obligated to anybody's company or anybody's workplace. I can, you know, I think you should be professional whenever possible, but I match disrespect with disrespect, and I don't feel any kind of way about it. So, I mean,
And that's reasonable.
that's for me. It makes it easy to, you know, thinking back, like, yeah, I would have did it again, because like the alternative for me was just like, well, more of this dumb shit, and I don't want to do that, you know. So
So that's such an interesting spot to be in, though, because so when you stopped the caricature job, were you working at Staples at the same time as the caricature job?
uh no, the job at Staples came after. So like I was working at Six Flags,
Okay, so
and then when I decided like, yeah, I'm done with this, um I was working at Staples for a short time, and then that store location closed. And so once that one closed, I was like, all right. I had already kind of began like selling my artwork and stuff, but I was still kind of working here and there. Excuse me. So I was like, all right. That was kind of like me taking the training wheels off, so to speak. Like once that job in, I was like, all right, this is it. Like we in it to win it full time, and no other thing to really distract me from it. No school, no none of this. I wasn't living at home, my mama and them. So it was just like, yeah, I'm just here. And like me and she was working. So it would just be me at the house all day, or the apartment all day. And I was like, I'm just work, do my own thing. And yeah, like, you know, I was able to get us out of that apartment to a slightly better apartment. And then from that shitty apartment to um, a smaller house in off in Decatur. And then from that house to where I am now. And I was able to do that all basically just kind of just sticking to my guns. And yeah, man, that's pretty much been it.
okay, so then whenever you stopped working at the Staples, what kind of what kind of social media presence did you have then? I know that you have a big following now, but what did your following look like whenever it was like you were taking that leap, like, okay, there's no safety net, it's this or nothing.
It was still in the can't remember exactly, but I mean I know it was a decent following, you know, somewhere maybe around 50K, 20K, 25K, somewhere around there. Um,
So
it was enough to where I felt like, hey, a lot of people seem to care enough about my art to buy it. I might as well give them the means to buy it.
mhm.
But I had been on social media. I had been on Instagram since what 2012 ish. So like I had been on there for a few years, and like for the most part, I always use it as a place to kind of post my art. But over time, the kind of art that I would share on there changed. And in the beginning, I was posting the kind of art that I did back in high school and college, which was mostly portrait art, and you know other stuff here and there. But it was like a lot of pencil drawings of like, you know, people and stuff. And I mean, people like that stuff too. It was always an audience for stuff like that as well. But that was initially the kind of art that I shared the most, because it was the most. That was the kind of art I was doing the most at that time. So um, yeah, that's how I kind of built up my following over time. But I've been posting art. I've been posting my art on the internet since I was in middle school. Like I used to post stuff on DeviantArt. Um, I used to post stuff on message boards and stuff. My art was trash, but I didn't care. I liked it at the time. And I mean, more importantly, it was the best I could do. So, but I never had any problem or any fear about sharing what I was doing, because one of the things that was a big deal for me at that time was just the proliferation of the internet, like things kind of opening up. Like I was able to see like this wider world of like artists, and just the possibilities within art as far as like what you can do and career paths and all these other people that you can kind of connect with. And like, um, DeviantArt, this one DeviantArt used to be like really cool to me. And I would go on there and I would like look at their art. Back during this time, Shy, he used to draw a lot too. So we used to just go on there and literally just look at art, draw, and like save pictures of some of our favorite artists. And I mean, some of those people who I'm friends with today, which is like, it's kind of a full circle moment for me because like I used to, as a kid, as a literal kid, I was looking up to a lot of these people and they were kind of like the things that was motivating me. And so, um, you come back now to like 2025, it's just like, yeah, these are some of the people that kind of inspired me along the way or kind of showed me that like, yeah, this thing is possible if you kind of stick to it. So I always knew that there was like, you can do something with this. You just have to kind of find your lane. And so me during that time when I was working at Six Flags and whatnot, that was me kind of trying to find my footing.
Hmm. It's so interesting, like being able to pull yourself out of a position like that. You said that, you were already upset with school and you were upset with work and you were just kind of upset with like what you were doing, how you were kind of living life. Not to say that you hated life or anything, but you just didn't really like the circumstances at the time. And so for you, I know that there's a lot of people out there that have situations like that where they might be at school and they hate it or they think it's dumb or pointless or whatever, and they have jobs that they can't stand, and all they know is that they can draw or that they like to draw and they want to make something out of it. And I know that for you, like how were you able to like kind of roll out of that corner? A lot of people would just kind of just fall under the pressure, or they probably just give up, or whenever you were telling me about sharing stuff online, you said that your work was trash, but it was the best you could do. I found that to be pretty important because a lot of people feel like their work has to look a certain way to be shareable, and it's like,
Mhm.
I want to know, in your opinion, how would somebody who's in that position of the place that you were in, how can they kind of roll out of there like you did, and be able to start living life on their own terms and not fall into that pressure, and just by means of making it through art.
Well, I think it's important to point out that I learned how to draw. Most of my formative years with art came before social media. So I didn't have that as a thing to measure myself against. Like there was other artists for sure, like through the internet, but the internet was smaller back then and everything was more um everything was more I should say sectioned off. Like you had different communities for different things. You were into art, you could go on a site like DeviantArt. You can go on one of these little websites. If you were into furry art, which I was into at the time, you could go on something like uh, Team Art Tale or something. People on there posting their Sonic fan art and their furry characters and stuff. Like there were communities dedicated to this stuff, and like you just kind of hung out around those things. And like I was in middle school around that time, and I'm just now getting exposed to like this wider world of artists and stuff. I knew that like there were good artists out there, but in my personal life, I didn't really encounter it all that much until like one day in middle school. One of my friends, he brought a drawing to school that I think it was his dad did in prison, and it was like some shit you would see like in Lowrider magazine, like a girl in fucking Cadillac and some shit. And but it was the coolest shit I had seen because I had never seen a person draw on that level until that point. Not in like in my personal life, like a tangible piece of like paper, a drawing that I can hold. And like he brought it to school, and I was like, "Yo, let me hold this for a little while." So I was just kind of just marveling at it because I was just like, a person was able to draw this, bro. Like they drew this and they drew it in prison, no less. And so my mindset at that time, which is my mindset now, was that if he could learn how to do this, what's stopping me from learning how to do it? Like, I just need to figure out how he did it. So the way I learned to draw, most of the things that I know how to draw was to just kind of reverse engineer it. I would look at a thing and I would try and draw the thing. And that was it. And I didn't really have any fundamentals. I didn't really have any of these other skills, but like I knew how to look at something and I knew how to copy it. And then so I would just, that was where all of my experience points was going. Like, I'm gonna try and get this hand-eye coordination thing going. So I was drawing things from magazines. I was drawing things from like books and stuff like that. Celebrities. I drew Maya a lot because Maya was like always been my biggest celebrity crush when I was a kid. So, ironically, drawing her over and over again, and I still have a lot of those drawn to this day. That helped me learn how to draw. It helped me learn realism because I was like, I was having trouble in the beginning drawing people, and I figured this is too stressful. Maybe I should try and draw something that I like. And so I was like, I'm gonna draw Maya. And because I like Maya, I wanted it to look good. And it wasn't because he was gonna see it. It was because I was like, I'm seeing it. I want it to look like Maya. So like I would go on the internet, find a picture of her, like, all right, I'm about to draw this. Show it to my sister and them. Who is this? Who do you think this looks like? And until they could tell me without a shadow of a doubt, that's Maya. I was like, all right, now we getting some progress. We getting somewhere. And I just kept doing it. And then once I got to a point where I felt like I was good enough, I would draw other people. But that was how I initially learned. I didn't seek the approval of people on the internet. I really just sought the approval of like my immediate family and friends because like they were the ones that were looking at my art. So I'm like, I'm drawing this stuff and I like drawing, but like I need to know that I'm on the right track because I didn't have anybody to hold my hand through it. So like somebody around me has to tell me like this looks good. So I know I'm doing the right thing so I can keep going in this direction. And all I needed to hear was like, yeah, that looks like the person, or this looks decent. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna keep going in this direction. And so all this is taking place during those baby years of the internet before social media. And I think it's like nowadays it's different. A person learning how to draw or being new to art, there's so much in the way of distraction, so much in terms of like, you know, people comparing themselves to something because now it's not just about like a love of the craft for a lot of people. It's also just this desire for attention, you know, for attention's sake. It's not because you even want to do anything with it half the time. It's just like, yeah, I just want the attention. And then it's like, to me, there's no point in doing things solely for attention. It should be for a specific reason. If you're trying to sell something, that's the reason, you know. But if you want to sell something, you also got to be good enough for people to want to buy it. And the best way to get good at a thing is to simply just put in the work. But it's hard to do that, I think, with social media looming over people. And of course, like people having this poor self-image and comparing themselves to an unhealthy degree. Like you have to compare yourself in order to see where these are areas I need to sharpen up in, or like say, I want to work in the industry. I want to work in the industry, in the games industry. You need to compare yourself to the people working at that level. So you have a minimum, a base minimum, or like, I need to be at least this good in order to maybe have a shot at working in this industry. You have to be able to do that, but you have to be able to do it in a way that's healthy and not a way that's self-destructive to where you start doing the self-deprecation thing where I'll never be good enough to do this and I'll never be like, no, don't do that. Look at the people doing it and say, well, if they can do it, there's no reason that I can't do it. Use that as the blueprint for what you want to strive towards and then start putting in the work. And the good thing about the internet now, which was not the case when I was younger, is that there's just so much free help. There's so much tutorial stuff. There's so much in terms of like when I was younger, you would have probably just went to college for it. But like now you can just literally go online, buy a course, and you can get a lot of information directly from the source, from people who are, they're working professionals, people who have a proven background, people who have skills that you can verify half the time, and for a fraction of the cost. You might spend a couple $100s on the class versus spending thousands of dollars in school, um, just to be chasing your tail. I feel like you're better off just taking that time and putting it towards something that's more in line with what you want to do. And then you can kind of curate that to exactly what you want to do. So it's not even just like you casting a wide net. No, you said you want to work in games. All right, this is the kind of things that you would expect to know how to do if you want to work in game design. You want to learn 3D modeling. Hey, we got classes for that. You can learn how to do this thing right here. You just need to have the software, the hardware to do it on, and you set. And so social media now to me is it's a gift and it's a curse because it gives a lot of us a way to share and promote our art and monetize it. Like I'm able to do what I do mainly because of things like Instagram and Twitter. But at the same time, it's a thing that can be pretty toxic for a lot of people in terms of how they use it to interface with their art and other people's art. Sometimes they use it and they take the wrong message away from it. They go online, they see other people doing things and they get upset that they're not able to do it, or they start beating up on themselves, and that doesn't do you any favors. And of course, there's always the people out there who they're looking for a shortcut. They're looking for an easy way, and they're expecting to strike gold on the first dig. And it's like, this is a long game that you're playing when you're talking about art, especially when you're new to it, because you have nowhere to go but up, really. You have to start somewhere. And we all start out in the beginning sucking. We all suck in the beginning. There's no way around it. We grow at different rates, but everybody has to start somewhere. And so you can't go online and measure, you can't measure your self-worth against what other people are doing when they're already they've already put in years in their skill, in their craft, and you are relatively new to it. And you haven't done a fraction of the work, but you wanted the most reward. And that's ridiculous, but it's one of those hard pills to swallow because a lot of people think that it's easy. They think they can just kind of just drop into it and, oh, I just got to just do a little thing here and there and that's it. And it's like, no, you gotta put in, not only do you have to put in the work to get good, but you got to put in the work to be consistent and show up and, be strategic in how you move with your art. You can't just be a thing that you just be haphazard about. You have to have a goal in mind. You have to be goal oriented. And in the end, you have to be self-motivated in terms of why you do your art. And it can't always come from other people. You can't be one of those people who, I do art because I want other people to like it. I want other people to give me gratification. That needs to come. That's one of those things that have to come from within. Like, yes, you want, but if you're doing it as a career choice, you want people to like your stuff enough to buy it, of course. But you also want to be able to do art without this constant pressure for it to perform well for an audience or to get, metrics on social media, retweets and likes and all this other stuff. That doesn't translate to anything. Ultimately, it doesn't pay your bills. It won't make you happy, and it's fleeting. It's like a dopamine boost. And in the end, those things will die down, and then it's going to be back to square one. You got to do a new drawing, and this drawing might not be one that's as well received as the last one. What do you do then? Do you just throw the towel in and you start pouting, or do you just keep it pushing and make another thing? I think that's how you have to be about it. Make art first and foremost. I think it's best to make art that you enjoy, the kind of art that makes you happy, because I think that's when you do your best work. And then secondly, you need to be self-motivated. You need to have a healthy relationship with your art. Doesn't mean that you're going to always like everything that you do or even like the process, because it's going to be stressful sometimes, but you have to like it enough to, even when it makes you upset, you still want to sit down and do it again the next day. If you don't have that kind of relationship with your art, then I don't know what to tell you, it's going to be rough ride for you. But if you do, then I think you'll be okay, because in the end, you'll want to do it even when you don't have everybody else giving you a pat on the back for it.
Yeah. Do you think that the motivation is something that you're just like born with, or do you think that it's like you either got it or you don't? Is there any way to kind of build that in yourself?
Well, I think it's a muscle that you have to work, but I also think that there's a certain level of passion that you just have or you don't have. But some people, like, art is a thing that they're passionate about to the point where it's like breathing for them. I can sit down and I can draw, and I don't need it to be like this thing where I have to get motivated to do it. Like, the only time I feel that way is when I have to do something I don't want to do. And I've been in those situations too. But drawing in general, like, I'm going to do that because I want to do it. When I'm like not home and I'm like out and stuff, I'm thinking about what I want to draw when I get out. That's how my brain works. For some people, art is better as a hobby because they can do it without the pressure of like having it be received well by a larger audience, or, be people liking it enough to buy it. And for others, it's a thing where it's like they like drawing, and they also have an interest in doing it as a career. Um, I think those people, they can do it if they care enough about it, because they'll in the end they'll be able to put the work out. But the motivation part, um, when you start doing this as a job, when it becomes a career move, you don't have no, like, motivation is going to be: do you want your bills paid or not? Do you want food on the table or not? Because if the difference between you eating is whether or not you sit your ass down and draw. For me, I got kids, so like that's all the motivation I need. I can't really be in here like getting in my feelings about some goofy stuff when I know I got a family to take care of. Like, the threat of being on the street is enough motivation for me. So, but if you are in a situation where that's not a reality, say like you live at home or you're younger, you tend to be a little bit more lax about it because you don't have any responsibilities to other people or other things just yet. You can afford to be like, I'm not motivated. I'm not this, I'm not that, because there's nothing on the line for you. But the moment you got some skin in the game, that changes. And it is a make or break moment for a lot of people. Some people can't really cut it, and they have to either um, supplement their art with a job, or they just probably just give it up entirely. And it's not a situation I ever want to see anybody in. I don't want people to give up on it. But in terms of the motivation thing, you have to be that for me comes more so from the discipline aspect. And the discipline part is the thing that most people probably won't. It probably trip most people up, because again, nobody's going to hold. This is like college. Nobody's going to make you go sit down and sharpen your fundamentals. Nobody's going to make you go sit down and, work on things that you need to tighten up, or just sitting down and work in general. You have to be the one to do that. Nobody can do it for you. And so that discipline is what you have to come into it with. And that also goes into the motivation aspect as well. You'll find yourself more motivated the more competent you become as an artist, because now you're not being held back by things that you don't know. So when you start to get a level of artistic freedom, because now you're starting to kind of like unlock some of these skills, drawing becomes more enjoyable, and the motivation becomes uh, less of a thing that you have to think about, because you'll sit down and do it. You may have to get motivated to do something that you don't want to draw, like, maybe a commission that's not all that fun. But in the end, you will still want to sit down and draw, which is the most important thing. And yeah, man, I think that's pretty much it. You, it has to come. It's like the self motivating thing. It has to um, come from within, and it has to come from a place that is built on like a passion for the art. Like, you care about this thing enough that you are willing to put in the time and sacrifice for it. That means giving up other things that are not as important. And if you can do that much, then I think that you'll be okay as far as everything else.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that I think that's something that's so important. I was just talking to a friend about this where it's like people Actually, matter of fact, it was a good quote I heard in a podcast. It said, um, "To have an extraordinary life, what makes you think extraordinary effort is not required?" And I
I
think
mean,
that
it's
rings
very
true
true.
because it's like, I mean, whether it's going, like you were saying, going away from something like going away from being homeless or going away from not being able to feed yourself or your family, or if it's going to something. I know a lot of my motivation comes from wanting things out of life. Like, of course, I want to be able to take care of myself, but there's just still stuff I want to do. I want to like travel, or I want to meet certain people, or I want to do specific things. And so, like, that can be the thing that will get me up out of bed. It's like, okay, if I want to, one of my biggest dreams, I want to go to Japan one day. And it's like, because I'm doing artwork full time, the only way I'm making money is by doing artwork. And so, like, okay, if I want to do this, I gotta
But
get that.
see, the artwork will be the thing that takes you there. You know, it could be an opportunity to take you there through your art. And I mean, I think that's how life works. I think when you're doing the thing that you are meant to be doing, uh, it'll take you a lot of places in life. But that also means being honest about whether or not you are even on the right path to begin with. I think sometimes people force themselves into a thing, um, and they're not necessarily happy with it. I mean, we see this a lot with people who they work jobs, especially like my mom's generation. Um, they do things just to take care of the family, and like I don't have anything against that, but a lot of times it involves giving up like a dream or a passion. And in the case of some people, they never were really able to find what they were passionate about because they might have got pushed into another thing or they never really given the space to kind of really explore it. So I think, and you know, people, I think they call it living in your purpose, some old new age speak, something along those lines. But it's one of those kind of things where it's just like you know what you want to do, and you can say with 100% certainty, like, yeah, I'm doing the thing that I feel like I'm meant to be doing, and I think that's the kind of thing that'll take you places in life. But yeah, man, like you, the motivation thing, um, there has to be something from within that motivates you. It can't be really like I mean, it could be other things, like you know, yeah, I don't want to be homeless, but like also, if I didn't make money on my art, I would still draw because I like to draw. So like, the thing that I like to do, the thing that allows me to make money and take care of my family, is the same thing that I would be doing if money wasn't a factor. And I mean, in a lot of cases, I wish that it wasn't a factor because if I was able to just kind of just do things without that consideration, it'd make things less stressful. There's a lot of stress involved when you're living off your art because you do play a game to a degree where you're trying to figure out what people will respond to. Um, you can do a bit of something for yourself, but you also have to do something for a wider audience because you, at the end of the day, you have to make money, and making money means uh, doing market research, responding to what people, um, or paying attention to what people respond to, rather. Doing things like that is how you will be able to take care of yourself. And it's one of those things that some people are not really interested in doing because they would much rather do the art that they want to do and nothing else. Some people are lucky enough that they can do that and they don't have to ever really do anything other than that. Whereas some people, they have to do a little bit of both because sometimes the things that they like to do, they haven't found that niche yet. They haven't found the audience for it just yet. So they have to kind of do a little bit of stuff for those people in order to make the money. And that's, I mean, it's just what it is. But at the end of the day, if you, I would much rather do that than to be working uh, at somebody's job, dealing with some annoying people. I would still rather do some drawings of things that I don't necessarily have any interest in. So yeah,
Yeah, I think that's the spinach of it. You know, every job is gonna have that thing that you don't like. Even your dream job will have stuff that you just don't care for all the time.
right. Listen, uh, people romanticize. the whole living off your art thing. But in the end, it is work. Now, I know you heard this quote where people say, like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's bullshit. It's still work. It's 100% work. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard a lot of days because there's still the thing about, especially when you work for yourself, is again, you have to be accountable to yourself. Nobody is going to put a gun to your head and make you do things you need to do. But this also means that when things don't go as planned, you still have to be accountable for it. You have to be the one to say, all right, I'm about to make a move. Or this is my strategy. I'm gonna put, I'm gonna put my time and effort into this thing or these few things, and you basically hope for the best. And if it doesn't pay off, then you have to walk away from that and be like, all right, what went wrong, and what can I learn from this, or what can I take from this, so that like I can, in the future I can make a move that will, pan out better, But that's hard because sometimes you have something riding on that. You might need to pay your rent, and like you was hoping that this thing was going to come through, and it didn't necessarily come through. Um, that's part of working for yourself. That's part of working as an artist, and you won't always have a safety net. You won't always have something that you can fall back on. If you're working in the industry, that might provide you some steady income for a time, but it's not always permanent. And as we already know, we was talking about this other day, like animation industry has been in shambles. The gaming industry has been in shambles for a time now. But the people who work in those fields, like when that safety net is snatched up from under them, now it's about like, all right, now what can I do on my own and still take care of myself? And, sometimes people don't always prepare for the time when they won't have something to fall back on. That's the reality of like doing this thing for a living. Like some people would much rather keep their day job because at least then they have a certain level of security, and I can't be mad at that. But for the rest of us, it's like, yeah, that's all I got. And yeah, there can be some really high highs, and there can be some low lows, and you got to be willing to reconcile with that. You can't just be coming into it thinking it's going to just be like, on the movies, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Everybody want to be an entrepreneur on Twitter and shit. Okay, you saying that, but you know what that means? That means when things are not going as planned, somebody has to answer for it. And there's nobody here but you. It's just you. So you have to be the one. You can't blame people on the internet. You can't blame, friends and family. It's you, because this is what you took on this responsibility. So now you have to be the one to make something happen.
Super true. Super true. I think self accountability help people a lot more than they would like to admit, because it's easy to kind of blame outside circumstances. And they can definitely be, there can just be things that are just unfortunate. But I think,
Things happen.
yeah, like as we were
Yeah.
talking about the other day, as creative people, I think that like this is just another problem we have to solve. It's just not gonna be, it's just not on the paper, it's not on the canvas, but as creatives, we do solve problems all the time, every day. And so this is
I
just
mean,
another
that's
way to do it.
literally, that's literally what it is. It's problem solving. You sit down and you draw a picture. This is problem solving. This is you coming up with a thing and trying to figure out the best solution. And that extends to more than just the art part. That's also the business aspect of it, and the taking care of yourself. And the accountability thing, like, yeah, there's always going to be things that happen that are outside of our control. That's life, and not fair. But I don't like to live my life based on, um, oh, this thing happened, so now I can't do that. No, you still got to find a way to, like, you uh, can't just throw in the towel, man. You got to still be willing to try and work around shortcomings like that, because there will be things that happen that you just can't, you can't plan for, and you just do your best to cope with it. But it's more, there's power in taking accountability, because now you're not just being a victim. Now you're not just sitting around saying like, this thing happened to me and woe was me. No, you can say, all right, this shit happened. Okay, whatever. but what else can I do? What are my other options? And what can I learn from the situation so I can probably better navigate in the future so I can maybe avoid this again happening down the line? That's what accountability will afford you. You sitting there, blaming somebody else. I think to me, that's the worst thing you can do. Pointing the finger. Like, yeah, sometimes people will do you wrong, or sometimes people will fuck you over. That's things that happen, and like when that happens, I think it's worth it to address it, but you can't use it as a crutch. Can't use it as an excuse, especially after a while. Like, all right, yeah, that happened, but this a year or two later. What we talking about? You still in the same position. You still talking the same mess, and life is gonna pass you by. World not gonna stop spinning because somebody did you wrong. You got to find another way forward. So, yeah, man, take accountability, and you'll start to see how your life starts to improve almost immediately.
Hmm. That's cool, man. Um, so for some of these, whenever we get to, I know we spoke a lot about some of the struggles in the creative career, but what are some of the cool things that art has allowed you to do or experience? I know that you've worked for quite a few notable companies, and I looked on your website earlier and I saw that you had clients like Warner Brothers and Capcom and Marvel and Sony. Would you consider those things to be like really cool experiences, or are there any projects that stick out that that it's just like, man, my younger self is just going stupid right now because I'm doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I think about that kind of thing a lot, actually. Like, because I can remember times when I was younger and just kind of just feeling directionless and not wondering whether or not I would ever really be able to kind of do something with my art as far as a career. And yeah, like if I were able to go back in time and be like, man, listen, you about to be drawing some shit for Capcom in a few years. You don't even realize it yet. It's one of those full circle moments. Not even just that, but like, of course, being able to work with a company or on a property that you have a direct emotional connection to because you grew up with it. That's always cool. Um, there's also the fact that you get to work with people who you grew up admiring through their art. Um, you start to build friendships. You start to build relationships, connections with people responsible for a lot of these things that you come to enjoy. Um, your art can take you to different places, different parts of the world, even all kind of things, all kind of opportunities open up for you. I think the best part about it all for me is that I was able to do these things just doing what came natural to me. I was just doing the kind of stuff that I would have been doing on my own time for free. And it was enough that somebody took notice of it and was just like, hey, we like this stuff that you do. We want to try and, invite you to be a part of what we got going on over here. Um, that to me, that's really the best, uh, that's the best form of like gratification, I think, is when people care enough about your stuff that they're willing to buy it, or they're willing to take uh, a chance on you in that way, where they want to extend the opportunity to you, allow you to be a part of a thing bigger than yourself, or a thing that you may have some like uh, personal interest in, nostalgia for. That to me is what it's all about. You want to be in those positions. You want to be one of those. You want to be one of those people where you can just kind of just say like, "Hey, I was doing the thing I love, and it took me pretty far in life." Um, it's a good feeling.
Mhm. For sure. Are there any Are there any projects in particular? Like, I'm looking more for like a specific thing that you got commissioned to do or that you got put onto a team to help make. I know some of this stuff can be like under NDAs and things until they get released, but if there's anything that you can share that was just a super high in your art journey so far.
Uh, I probably say, I guess the biggest thing really would be breaking into animation, doing character design, probably the biggest thing. And
How'd that go?
it wasn't, well, it wasn't one project in particular. Um, Although the first thing I worked on was that it was the Urkel Save Santa holiday special. Um, and that was the thing that um, I had opportunity to work on directly because of like work that I had done previously to that. Like I had done like those Fresh Prince and Martin shirt designs and stuff, and those things to this day they've been insanely popular on the internet, and so much so that like it kind of drew the attention of people working in animation, and they liked my ability to kind of like I guess stylize these characters in a way, and so that basically was what got my foot in the door doing character design at Warner Brothers, and it was for the thing, the Urkel Save Santa holiday special, which was kind of in line with the kind of work that I already been doing up to that point. Wasn't really the biggest Family Matters fan, but um, working on something related to that, that property in that era in which I grew up on is still pretty cool. And I was able to work with some people who were also pretty cool. Starting to see how these things come together on the back end. Just watching a thing, making a thing and watching it come together, and also being a part of a thing that's bigger than yourself. It's a group effort. Um, yeah, that to me is probably one of the best experiences I've had in my adult drawing career. I hadn't really had anything like that before that experience. Everything else before that was just kind of me doing my own thing. And maybe had a nice little gig here and there for a company, but nothing like that before. So yeah, that was a really cool experience. And then of course that led, once me getting that opportunity, that kind of opened the door for me for future opportunities down the line. And I've been doing that pretty much since then, off and on. And yeah, man, hopefully I could do some more in the future.
Yeah.
Uh, I would love to do something related to Ninja Turtles. I would put Ninja Turtles in that category of like, this is I'll say one of the top three things that really influenced me in terms of art was Ninja Turtles. Really big impact on me. And I don't think I've really ever done much with that in the official capacity outside of like some licensed shirt design stuff. Um, but yeah, like if it was something animated or whatever, or even like some comic book covers or IDW, I'd take that too. Anything, um, work on Turtles, I wouldn't really pass up on.
So what was it about the Ninja Turtles? Like I know that just on a surface level, it's a cool concept, and especially for like young kids, you see the kung fu, you see you have the comedy aspect, you have like turtles fighting ninjas. That's just like a cool concept for kids and stuff. But was there anything in particular that it was just like something that just connected with you in particular that was like this is just perfect for me, or does it align with a specific type of value you have in artwork, or like what's so special about the turtles to you?
Well, at the time, it was none of that. It was just that it was a cool thing, and like you had to be there. There's really no other way to describe it. Like when I was a kid, Turtles came out, what I think '84. Um, but then the animated series came out in '87, and that was what introduced me to it proper. And like the Turtle Mania was real. It was like one of those things that just kind of just took over. And if you were a little kid, specifically if you were like a little boy, you were into Ninja Turtles. And like I like turtles as an animal. I've always just kind of disliked them because I like their shells. I think their shells are cool. But I also like ninjas. I also like crazy looking mutant characters and stuff. And it was all of those things. And so that was what it was. Like, and it was just like, it was just so prevalent during that time between the comics, the cartoon, the movie, which came out in 1990, which was like one of the earliest movie experiences I can remember. The toys The toys was crazy. And just all these things, man. It was everywhere. And you would have been hard pressed to find a kid that wasn't into it. So I used to just like I watched it all the time. I drew them all the time. Um, I pretended to be them all the time. I had all these toys, and I just liked them, you know. And then as I got older and I learned more about the creation of the turtles and just like the backstory of the TMNT property is really inspirational in and of itself because it was created by two guys, um, Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, in their I think apartment, and it was just a silly idea where it was like, what if we drew a turtle and made him a ninja, and then what if we call him what if he had or three brothers, and then what if we called them Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then they made a comic out of it, and they named their studio Mirage Studios because it wasn't real. It was just an apartment that the two of them lived in. They made the comic. They told a story. It was mostly a complete story because they killed Shredder in the end of it. But the comic was really popular. But at the time, it was inspired by like Daredevil and like Frank Miller comics and stuff. So they made a thing just out of like, you know, passion. And the response they got from people was more than what they could have expected or hoped for. So much so that they was like, yo, we got to do an issue 2, but we wasn't expecting to do more than one. And we killed off our villain in the first issue. So then that's what began like the Turtles as a property. And then from there, you know, cartoon came and then the rest is history. But I've always really liked it. Like as I got older and I was able to appreciate like, oh, they basically made something out of nothing. And it's become like a worldwide phenomenon to where it's like now every generation has a version of Ninja Turtles that they can point to and be like, this is the one I grew up with. And yeah, from just a, you know, from a nostalgia standpoint, they've always really been the thing that I've had like, they had a big influence on me, but also from an artist and creator and just like career standpoint, that's just the other layer of it for me. There's just like, yeah, man, this is really cool. And this is one of many stories. There's plenty stories like this. You know, there's a similar story like this with Scott Pilgrim. But yeah, man, it's just like, yeah, this is inspirational. Like it lets you see that like you can strike out on your own, make something for yourself, and it can take you like to crazy places. And you know, you become a worldwide phenomenon. So that's the reason why that I have that kind of like attachment to it. It's not just Turtles, but it's probably the earliest one. That and maybe Mario, Nintendo, because I'm heavy into that as well. But yeah, man. Listen, you don't understand. I used to I had Ninja Turtles one on Nintendo, and I used to like draw the cartridge like on the cover art, which was like it was actually one of the comic book covers that they pulled, and they just used it as the cover art for the first Ninja Turtles game on NES. I used to draw that cover art over and over again. I used to draw the in-game sprites over and over again. Like I used to just pause the screen or just leave the game running and just kind of just draw. Like it was a big deal for me. So that's why I hold it in such high regard. That's it's like the impact it had on me.
Yeah, that's so real. I used to like try to pause like the movies and stuff whenever I was a kid and be trying to draw it. There were times where like even before I knew how to draw people, I would like put the paper on the screen and be trying to trace over the
Try and trace it down the pregnant TV.
yeah.
Naturally,
It's
to
true.
know
You're
to
right.
know if it really worked.
Yeah, yeah.
But like that's what we did. Drawing, like I used to draw from books, cartoons, video games a lot. Was a big one. Yeah, man, like that was very common, like doing that. And then in middle school, by the time we was able to print out pictures and stuff, drawing Dragon Ball Z characters, you going online and you finding these fake Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan 7 pictures and shit. Yo, I'm about to draw this. This shit about to be clean. You at school doing this, and then it became kind of like a competition amongst you and your friends to see who could do the best ones. So like, yeah, man, that was I do miss that aspect of like art, was having that like that sense of community with like my friends who also did it. because we pushed each other to be better at it. And a part of that was lost when we got older and everybody grew up. The next best thing you get now is like Discord and, hanging out with friends online, but it's not quite the same. It's like couch co-op, you playing a game, playing Mario Kart 64 or something. It's good to play online with friends, but it doesn't compare to when like you were in the same room and everybody kind of just doing it together.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it was a big part of
Yeah.
those formative years for me.
Yeah, I remember being in school, especially in elementary school, it was real heavy. Uh, my friends would get together and we would make comics. And we would like we each would have like our own character that we created, and then we would not only draw our own comics with our characters, but then we would put each other's characters in the comics and stuff like that.
Yep,
And
we did thing.
and there was so many good skills you learn from that, just on a subtle thing. It's not like we're actively like, oh, I'm gonna work on this skill, but you learn character design, you learn, draftsmanship and comics, you learn storytelling, you collaboration with other people, like you getting feedback, you're drawing every day, all the time. That kind of stuff is just it's just priceless as a budding artist for sure. I think that community aspect is super important.
Yeah, that part I think it's not lost, but so much of it is just it's online now. It's everything is like through Discord or everything is through like I'm sure you got some friend groups that they they meet up, you know, like even like as far back as like I would say college or something. I was like sometimes go to like coffee shops and things like that. Um, but it wasn't the same because I wasn't with those old friends. But I think that when you have like that community, it does push you to get better faster because you have other people that kind of hold you accountable or other people that you are in direct competition with. But it's not an unhealthy competition. It's a healthy one. It's like everybody's having fun and you want to see not just yourself get better, but your friends get better because you kind of hype each other up. So yeah, man, like Shy, he was that friend for me for a long time too. It would be him because I would say he was the last holdout. It was a lot of friends we had. They would draw. We were kids, but one by one they fell out of it, for one reason or another. And in the end, it was just like me and Shy. We were still drawing, and like we had characters that we had created, and we had like a little comic and everything, and it was goofy, but we was really invested in it, and so we was doing that for as long as I can remember, up until maybe I'll say when he moved. When he moved away, that was really kind of the end of it. He stopped drawing, and it was just like, all right, well now it's just me, and so yeah, I kind of was just doing my own thing, and now for me it's just like I don't really hang out or talk to many people anymore. Like I have a handful of friends, and like we'll draw, we'll hang out, we'll talk on Discord and stuff like that, and that's about the extent of it. But if anything other than that, I'm just kind of just by my lonesome. I'm at my desk, and I mean I'm okay with that because I like being to myself, but it is not. I will say that it's a lot funner. It's a lot more enjoyable when you have like that sense of community around your art. So yeah, man, I would say if you want to if you have that, if you have friends, if you have people around you, we all kind of share the same hobby or the same interests, and y'all doing it, like just kind of hold on to it as long as you can, and like you can kind of foster that through social media, Discord too as well. I mean, if you can have that, yeah, hang out, everybody on Discord call or whatever. Like that's the next best thing. That's really don't no two ways about it. You're not really gonna find much better than that outside of just in person, the real thing. So
Mhm.
it'll motivate you to get better. The community aspect.
Yeah, I was at a matcha tea spot yesterday, and um I was there with my girlfriend and some friends, and we met somebody who was drawing. She was like, we just saw her drawing over there in the corner, and we went over there and we spoke to her. We spoke, just talked about art and stuff like that. But she didn't really have any sort of community to like that we just spoke about, like no people that she can kind of meet up with or kind of go back and forth. exchanging ideas or just drawing together. And for people online, like she didn't even know about these things. Like I know a couple of communities, and so I was able to share some resources with her. But like for people who don't know like anything and don't know where to start or where to look, and they may only know like a few famous artists on IG or on Twitter or something, and maybe they don't get to their DMs in time. And so if you got somebody who's looking for that kind of community, like they don't really know where to go, what would you tell them to do?
Well, if you are already online sharing your art, then the best place to start is with the people who take the time to even engage with your art in the first place. Because more times than not, they also do art. Um, and I mean, in general, I think it's just it's a good practice to show appreciation and acknowledge those people. Talk to them, respond to them, and if they share your interests or if they do something similar to you, you can build your own community around that. So, like, you share your art online. Let's say you want to start streaming. You can build a community around that. You can make a Discord of your own. Have people come in there and join it, hang out with you and stuff like that. Um, I mean, it's the internet. That's the easiest way to do it. I would say it's definitely easier than trying to go find real life friends that's doing it. Because like more times than not, people drawing and people who do art, they probably not as social as some people might be. And you can take a thing that started as an online friendship and turn it into a real life friendship. You might be able to grow into that as well, especially when you start talking about things like conventions and meeting up at cons and stuff like that. But there's never um, you're never too small on the internet to start. You just need to be able to put yourself out there. You can't not put yourself out there and expect other people to do it for you. Like you got to start somewhere. Like if I'm wanting to make friends, it'd be a lot easier because that's how I really in real life. That's how I made all my friends. I made my friends through my art. I went to school. I was draw. People would be like, "Damn, that's nice." And more times than not, if it was like a guy, he was drawing too, and so it was like, "Yo, you draw too? Let me see." And then right there, you can build a friendship because y'all both into drawing and y'all both probably like the same things, and so you drawing a lot of the same things. But like you looking at this person's stuff and it's probably nice and you learning from it and stuff. So that's how I would make most of my friendships growing up. And I mean, the same kind of remained true in the online space. Like I was started out just doing my own thing and some people would take notice of it, including some people whose work I look up to for years. And I was like, oh, that's nice. This person actually, checking out my work. I never would have expected that. And so you kind of just build a relationship organically around that. It doesn't have to be a thing that you force or, a thing that you be creepy about. Like you don't have to do all that. Just kind of do your own thing. And also do the same for others. Other people are online, they're sharing their work, they're putting themselves out there. And for some people it's harder than others. It's kind of nerve-wracking to kind of put the things that you labored over out in front of the world to judge. So um sometimes just being able to come through and just be like, hey, yeah, this thing is nice. I like what you're doing here. Um, that goes a long way for a lot of people, and especially when it's only a handful of people. That is how you kind of build those relationships, those communities.
Hmm. It sounds like it's kind of going into like building on a social media presence as well. I think what you just said not only builds, I guess that's what social media originally was for. I think
I
nowadays,
mean,
it,
sure.
yeah, I feel like people nowadays try to just like rack up followers and or try to just build this big audience where it's more of like a one way thing. They just kind of throw stuff at the audience, but it really was like just a thing to keep up with the people around you or to kind of just form a community where it feels more mutual. Um, so for somebody, like I think those are really good points for somebody who wants to build a community that feels more genuine and mutual and connected too, and not just like I don't know, just like some place to get validated, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it won't be given to you. It won't fall out of the sky. So you have to, you know, essentially you got to put yourself out there, and you have to be willing to consider others as well. And I think as long as you can do that, then you'll build a relationship organically. And then also too, when your work is good, when you get to a place where your work is really like your skill level is increasing and your work is becoming to a point where it's undeniable, you draw the attention of others anyway, including the people who you probably didn't know you were on their radar. And so that's how that community aspect kind of comes into play. But yeah, you do get a lot of people online who are just in it for, it's a numbers game. I just want to have a lot of attention on me. I just want to look like an important person. You're going to always have that because I'm as old as time. But for the people out there who are just looking to have like, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to do my art and I'm trying to build a community around it, then yeah, that's what you should do. You have to be an active participant in the community. You can't just be passive, oh, I'm on the sidelines type of person. You got to do the things that you would want people to do with you and your art. That includes talking with others, supporting others, um, showing up at people's streams maybe, um, responding to questions and comments, messages, and in general, just kind of just encouraging people, even making small talk around people like shared interests. All these things go towards you building friendships, building communities. And I mean, again, I think now it's easier than ever. Like something like Discord, man, like there's a community for everything. Now, I'm not saying that you just need to just jump into any old thing, but when it comes to the stuff that you like this, like I know JC, he has a pretty large community that he's built around his art. And a lot of what he does is he does his art on stream, but a lot of it is built around helping others and being supportive of others. And so naturally people are drawn to that because you kind of position yourself to be one of those folks that are kind of in service to others. And there are a lot of people who are looking for that kind of guidance. Like I think about when I was younger, that would have been something that interests me a lot, being in this part, in a space where not only is there's other people who do what I do, but there's people here that can kind of guide me along my path and kind of show me what's possible. So yeah, man, I think that's kind of what you need, what anybody should do. I think if that's something that you're seeking out.
Hmm.
I'm more of a lone. I keep to myself. I don't have a Discord. I don't want to be responsible for managing anything. I keep to myself. If I'm in other people's Discord, it's only a handful, and I just we kind of hang out in the voice call here and there. But outside of that, yeah, I just try to keep to myself.
Mhm. So I have another thing too. So do you ever experience when you're connecting with somebody who is also in the art, even on your own journey, either in the past or now, when you're trying to connect with people, but they're like the skill gaps are so stark between each other. So maybe I've had stuff like this whenever I was trying to make friends and stuff in the community where it's like these folks are just so swole in the art game. There's like they're like you try to make friends with them and they're just like, yeah, just keep doing your thing, man. And you're like, dang, like I'm actually trying to like talk about stuff and they're just trying to like go into coach mode. Or if you are the person that is really really good and then there's people that are coming up and you really want to be friends with these people, but then they're just like they just spend the whole time talking about like art or like Copic markers or just stuff that people who like you can kind of tell they're so eager to like just learn from you and you really just want to like chill out and just be cool and talk about like regular stuff that friends talk about.
Well, I mean, again, I think that when it comes to like when it comes to like the skill gap between like let's say some artists or or this person has a really big following or whatever, um, a lot of times they have a big following for a reason. They probably done something that has earned them that, and so like I have to acknowledge that they probably not. trying to be friends with every person that come their way because they get a lot of people that come their way. But also, I don't actively seek to make friendships either. This is, I'm saying personally for me, how I think about it. Um, there's people whose work I admire, people whose work I enjoy. I would say Chase is a good example of that. Um, I've known about Chase and his art since high school, and I didn't ever really expect to be friends with him, but it kind of happened naturally over time as I like, because I've always followed him. I would leave comments here and there saying something, like I like his work or I like this thing he did. But I wouldn't be thirsty about it. I wouldn't be looking like, please notice me, senpai type shit. I would just kind of just like, show my appreciation and enjoy, because I genuinely enjoy the work. It's enough for me to see them post the artwork. You know what I'm saying? If he never said anything to me, I would still want to follow him because I still want to see the art. So, but it just so happened that our paths still kind of connected because as I'm watching him, I'm growing, and over time I'm getting better to the point where I'm drawing attention to what I'm doing too. And a lot of times that includes people that there's some overlap, some mutuals. And, before long, he was taking notice of the things I was doing too. And then, we just kind of became cool. And over time, just kind of just built like a little friendship through that. But it's not a thing that I sought to do. It's just a thing that happened organically. So, and it doesn't matter that the person has a certain amount of followers or not. Um, all that mattered to me was that like I was here because I liked what you were doing. I liked the work that you were putting out, and I'm not expecting nothing more than that. I wasn't really seeking community either because at the time I would say that like the idea of it did interest me because I was younger and I was still like kind of fascinated by the idea that like there's a lot of people out here who do art. Um, it did interest me more back then, but I wasn't a part of those things for the sake of being closer to the bigger artists. It was for the wider community because like there's still a lot of people who do art. There's still a lot of people who are good at art besides like, the big fries, the big wigs. So like I was in the company of a lot of different people who I'm also learning from. I'm also kind of enjoying what they're doing, or in general, just kind of just laughing and having fun outside of just art stuff too. So that's the kind of thing that I think is more important because in doing that, you still kind of cultivate your own relationships with people in and around like that art space in that community. And over time, as you're growing, you're gonna get better anyway. And I think once you become one of those people who become like, yeah, your skill is at the point where like people can't deny it, you inevitably bring people in. You bring people in towards you because now people want to see what you got going on. And then sometimes it'll be people who are like, you didn't expect. Like I'm sure there's been people who you've like, oh, this person started following me, or this person commented on my stuff or sent me a message. Everybody has a story like that at one point or another where it's like, oh, this I didn't even realize dude was checking for my stuff like that in the first place. That's cool. Like it gives you a certain level of like satisfaction to know like for me it makes me feel as though like okay, if this person is saying I'm doing something nice, then that means I'm on the right path and I just need to keep going. And it also kind of it's a little validating when other people who are like already well established are kind of just giving you a cosign. So that's always nice. I wouldn't recommend or tell you to expect that because you can't anticipate it. You can't plan for it. And you shouldn't, again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, you shouldn't do art based on external things like that. You should be doing art based on what makes you happy first and foremost and what interests you. And I think in doing that, you will organically build that audience around your work anyway. And then with that comes like a sense of community. That's if you be an active participant. You might be one of those people who you have people who follow you and you never care to comment or engage because you don't really want to be bothered with folks. And that's true for a lot of people too. But if you're one of those folks who's just like, no, I want that sense of community, then that's how it happens. That's where it comes from.
Man, that's real. Yeah. Having those times, they can be very it can be very like uh it feels like freaking gym badge moment, like when you have
Yeah.
somebody that you've admired and then they kind of turn around and it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I see your work. Like, oh, bet, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a validating feeling. I'm not gonna front. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that like, oh, that stuff don't matter. No, it feels good, particularly because it came from a person that is doing what you want to do. It's like it's not the same as like your mama telling you like, "Oh, baby, that draw look good." Yeah, it's your mama though. You expect that from your mom, and it's not to say that you don't appreciate your mom supporting you, but a person who is like a working professional in a field that you want to one day work in, telling you that like, "Yeah, this is good, keep it up," is a different type of thing, and it gives sometimes it can mean the difference between a person uh giving up or sticking to it because you want to know that like if anything that you're doing is paying off. Plenty of people who are really good, but they don't have a big following. They don't have a whole lot of fanfare around their art, and that could be for any number of reasons. But I've seen people get like upset and down on themselves because it's like I'm putting in all this work, I'm doing all these things, but nobody really seems to care all that much, and I don't know if anybody wants to even support me, and should I just keep doing it or not? And sometimes, it's worth it to just kind of just be like, yeah, the stuff that you're doing is good. You need to keep going. To hear that from a person, especially if it's a person that is like the one you least expect, the one that you kind of look up to yourself, it's a big deal for a lot of people. Now, again, got to stress this: you can't sit around waiting on it. You can't bank on the person giving you validation, and you shouldn't sit around hoping for it. But what I'm saying is, when it happens, it is a good feeling. It is a nice feeling because sometimes it's like it's the second wind you need to keep you moving, to keep you on the right path.
So true. So for people, I guess, I mean, your social media presence, I guess, depends, like, its importance depends on the kind of artwork that you want to pursue.
Hmm.
And I guess my question is, like, for people who, like, because the animation industry and like the gaming industry has kind of been downhill as of recent, and people are more so trying to get their own ideas out, or they're starting to start their own stores or put out their own, animation films, whatever. Do you think that social media for artists is becoming more important? And then, if so, what are some tips that can kind of help people to grow their following to, like, to a, I guess, what kind of, I'm trying to think about how to ask this question. For one, I want to know if there are any tips or tricks or secrets that you have to help you build your following, because I know you have a pretty significant following. And then, with you being there, how important do you find that to be? How difficult or easy is it to maintain in terms of like the engagement? How would you go about doing it? I know that you've been at a large following for so long, and I know that nowadays Instagram's algorithms are kind of different than they used to be. And like, how would you play these games now? Like, if you woke up tomorrow and you had a new Instagram, how would you build that from step one?
Well, the game has definitely changed. Um, I have a decent following for sure, but I lose followers more than I gain followers at this point. And a big part of that is I am too lazy to play the game. So the game is now such that you are encouraged to participate in reels on Instagram. Reels, having the music and stuff in your posts, all that kind of stuff. when I first got on Instagram, that wasn't a thing. It was just posting pictures. Um, and yeah, people talk, this that and about the algorithm, but I don't stress over that because again, it's one of those things that it's not in my control, and I have a policy where I don't stress about things that are not in my control. I just want to do the things I want to do, and I'm not. I don't like doing things like reels. I don't like TikTok and stuff like that. The reason why I don't like doing it is because it feels unnatural for me most of the time. Um, it's it's kind of obstructive to my creative process. Whereas like I just want to sit down and draw. I don't want to have to set up cameras and do all these, different angles, and then I got a voiceover, and then I got to do all of this goofy shit. I don't really have the patience for it, and so I don't do it consistently, and so I don't really grow on the platform. That and I don't post regularly. Like I post when I feel like posting or when I have something to post. I think if you are a person who are new, you're new to it, or you just in general, you just want to grow, where you're new or old. First things first, you need to get your work to a level that is good enough for people to care about. And that's going to be a thing that's hard for people to swallow because everybody's skill is at a different level and they probably feel like my work is already good enough. Well, you'll know if it's good enough, people respond to it. And the second part is you need to play the game. That means you need to participate in the reels. You need to add music to your posts. You need to post frequently and consistently. Um, and also it helps to, again, be a part of the community that is not only responding and engaging with the people who take the time to talk to you or support you, but doing the same for others. So you encourage more of that, that goodwill towards your page and what you have going on as well. And just be serious about it. Don't be one of those people who got a page on private talking about you trying to grow. You're not trying to grow if your page is private. How are people supposed to see what you're doing? I don't care enough to get through the privacy wall to see whether or not I like the things you post. I need to know if you got something there before I follow, and then I can make my choice on whether or not I want to stick around. Um, and then be consistent, and not just in how much you post, but what you post. Or like, don't be one of those people who, if you are an artist and you sharing art, share your art. You don't need to share memes and all this other goofy stuff all day because people will lose interest in that, I'm sure. Just keep it focused on what you came to do. I'm not saying you can't ever post anything else, but like the main priority should be the thing that people followed you for. In which case, we talking art, so like you need to be sharing more art than anything else, and you need to do it frequently. You need to play the reels game. You need to do all of these things, and you'll see some growth, I'm sure. Provided that you do all those things and your work is decent enough. Or at the very least, it you find a niche, you find an audience that resonates with it. Because sometimes your work can be on a technical level, it can be not that great, but you might still find an audience within it if you hit on other things that people care about, like maybe telling a story through your posts, you're doing comics, you're doing um, something that people can relate to and identify with. Those are things that people will also kind of follow you for, I guess. But um, that's a little more gimmicky, I think, than just having raw skill. Like skill is undeniable, so you might as well just get good, and then the rest will tend to fall into place. Um, but it's important to remember followers come and go. People are fickle. Nobody's gonna like everything that you do. Sometimes people might follow you because you drew a drawing of Goku, and they might think that they're gonna see more Dragon Ball art from you in the future. But you, surprise, I like to draw Genshin Impact all day, and I don't like Genshin Impact, so I'm not following you. That happens. It happens every day. So you can't obsess over that. That's the thing out of your control. You can do things to increase your traffic and your odds with people, but it's not a thing you want to obsess over. It's not a thing that you want to trip about, because it's a distraction from what you should really be doing, which is your work. It's your art.
Yeah, I've thought about this in a way too when it comes to social media. I think that people had gotten to the point, even myself, had gotten to the point of creating for social media when at the end of the
Mhm.
day, like social media was made as a sharing platform. And so you should really be doing work and choosing what you want to share versus creating for the machine or for the engine or for whatever. It's like just do a bunch of work, do the work you need to do, and then just pick from what you're doing and choose to share whatever it is that you want to share. And I think that
Yeah.
can help it feel more like genuine to you, and it helps with the burnout too. Sometimes it's rough when you're when you're just making stuff for that, because then you're obsessing over what people are gonna respond to
Mhm.
online.
You're worried about the follows, the engagement, the algorithm, numbers. You're worried about things that you have no influence over, and ultimately don't matter as much as you think that they do. You can be strategic in what you post and how you post it, you know, because there is things that you can. There's benefits that you can get from social media, posting on social media. Um, For instance, it's how a lot of people find work nowadays. You post your art online, you can curate your page so that it shows, hey, I do work. I'm a background painter. I do BG paint. I'm looking for work in animation doing background paint. You post examples of your work. You show the kind of stuff you essentially you treat it like a portfolio. Now, if you're a professional and you're serious about your art and you are looking for work, you need to have a website in addition to social media because you need to have a place that you can control, that you can curate, that you can post things to, that people can reliably find every time. Because social media is fickle, just like people can be fickle. So, like, I can go on social media, I can go on Twitter, and Twitter might be down today. Instagram might be down today. Or Elon Musk might decide he want to do some goofy shit and make it to where you can't DM people no more. Um, all kind of stuff like that, you know. In the event that something happens, how will people be able to find your art? How will people be able to keep up with what you're doing? You should have a personal website if you are serious about your art, if you are serious about it as a career, because you need a place where you can control how you are presenting your art to the world. And then through that, of course, you got your contact form and how people can reach you, but have both. I know a big thing for a lot of people with Twitter was like everybody wanted to jump ship because of Elon and the AI stuff and all these other things. And I mean, I guess if you want to do that, but in my mind, it but it doesn't hurt to put. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. So like, if you want to go to Blue Sky, that's fine. But like, I think it's worth it to have both. So I just got both. Um, because why not? I'm posting my work across the board. It's not like artists. I think they have this thing where like they want to exist in a world with only other artists. And like people who consume your art, the majority of them are not artists. They're just regular people, everyday people. And that's the person you selling your stuff to. If I'm selling prints, more times than not, it's people buying it who don't do art, who don't have artists, friends or community and that stuff. They might follow people whose work they enjoy. And yeah, there's other artists who support other artists, but like a big chunk of the people who are probably going to pay your bills are going to be the regular everyday people. And so I don't know that it's a good idea to go to a place where you're in an echo chamber, essentially. It's mostly artists talking to other artists and patting each other on the back and feel good stuff. And I'm just like, no. Um, if you want to leave a certain platform off principle, that's your business. But like for me, I'm not really in the business of trying to prove a point or grandstand. I'm just posting my art on the internet because I'm sharing it and I'm also looking to sell it. I'm looking to find work. I'm looking to take care of myself through my art. And I think the best way to do that is to cast a wide net. So I would say just use every social media platform that you can stand. Um, if you like me, you don't have patience for much, but I have Instagram. That's a legacy thing for me. Instagram and I guess Twitter. And then the Blue Sky, I have a Blue Sky, but that's a newer thing. Outside of that, I just have my website and that's it. I have a Facebook, but it's really just for my family. I don't really use it for anything other than like that, like stuff like that. But the idea is that you're putting your work in multiple places because casting a wider net to probably get more opportunities. That's the hope, at least, or at least somebody that's probably interested in buying your work or something. So that's what you can do. And then of course it's everything else I said earlier, which is, making sure your work is at a certain skill or a certain standard and sharing it consistently and making it easy for people to find and not bogging it down with a bunch of memes and other stuff that kind of gets in the way of it, you know? Um, and being appreciative, being, acknowledging people who show or take time out to appreciate what you do and pay it forward in that sense.
Yeah, it's so real. I think uh, something I did recently was for a client uh, who gave me a really nice project last year. I made them a piece just to say thanks
Mhm.
because I think those types of things are super important. Whenever you're doing your own work, like I don't think that some people realize just how much they support like the artist whenever they do buy stuff or whenever they do give you an opportunity, whether it is for like experience and I mean of course for money too, but it's like it's important to kind of give in that same direction or pay forward just because like uh, I guess that's how like the cycle keeps going. Like being able to form those relationships is key. Like forming them, strengthening. That's a lot of times what you can fall back on. In those
Yeah.
lower waves of the creative career, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially the community aspect of art, you know, because you do want to show appreciation for not just the people who support you, but also the people who they extend opportunities your way. And I mean, when possible, yeah, I think it's a good idea to kind of do something to show or acknowledge that. It doesn't always have to be in the form of a drawing or something like that, but just at the very least, just letting them know because it is a big deal. And a lot of times that's how people even get their start is like somebody essentially put in the word for you or they looked out for you. So I think the best thing you can do is to find an opportunity to do that for someone else. It's one of the reasons I am the way I am now about like um just talking about my experiences, talking about things that has helped me along the way, um, sharing information, sharing techniques, all these things that really could be behind a paywall if I want it, but it's just like it doesn't really benefit me to do so. I think it helps people more to make it more readily available and to be honest about it because there's a lot of people who have misconceptions or, things about how what it's like to do this thing for a living or how you get your start doing it. And sometimes it's just good to hear somebody just give you an honest perspective on it. So I try to do that wherever I can. And that's one of my little ways of kind of just like um trying to pay it forward to the younger people out there who were like me when I was kind of young and directionless with my art.
Do you have anybody or anything that was just incredibly like pivotal on your artistic journey? I'm sure that there's a ton of things that played individual parts, but whenever you look back in your own life, was there a particular person or thing or opportunity that was just like this was a game changer? Like you would not be who you are today without this particular person or thing.
I would say Mia because um in the beginning she was the one who supported me in pursuing it when I wasn't sure if I should do it myself. And she was doing it when like my mom wasn't, when like I would say my siblings and them, they've always supported me in my art. And my mom, she it's not that she didn't support me in my art. It was more so that um she didn't she didn't support me in the decision of taking the chance on it in the way that I did. And it was more so because her being a concerned parent, she just wanted me to be able to take care of myself. and not be out here uh essentially looking crazy. So like I understand why, but a lot of times the things that I think make or break people is people they have around them and whether or not those people are supportive or encouraging in what they want to do in life. And like I always been into my art, of course, and that was how me and Mia even met was through the art. And when I was in it, like, like, cause she saw how unhappy I was during that time, so it was just like, yeah, I don't like to see you like this. I would much rather you pursue this thing that makes you happy. And you know, she believes in my art enough to tell me like, yeah, you should be doing this. You should get this other stuff. Um, which is a big deal because like, you know, especially like with in terms of relationships, um, yeah, you'll meet people who like they like the idea of you or they support the idea of you and your dreams and stuff until it's real, until it's a situation where it's like, yeah, we in there and like we living in a shitty apartment. It's fucking roaches in here and shit. We was dealing like it was legit like dealing with like the plagues that you saw in Prince of Egypt, where it was just like one day it was the house was infested with gnats and shit. Didn't know where they was coming from. Then during like this is around the time where the uh the freeze happened, where the cars were stuck on the road and shit. This is all those years ago. Yeah, and our heat went out, so we was in the apartment like no heat, no hot water, bruh, and it was like winter, and it was ice, like the icy roads and stuff, and it was rough, bruh. Like when I tell you it was rough, it was rough, and yeah, like she was still supporting me through that, where a lot of people would have been like, man, I ain't got time for this, man. And so, but that was like, you know, very beginning of me just trying to like get my you know, my start doing this thing with my art and, you know, in terms of turning it into a thing to make money for myself. Um, but it didn't take long for it to start kind of like bearing fruit. So, but I don't know if it would have played out that way if it was with anybody else because like, you know, shit get real when like, you know, you got to pay bills and you're dealing with all these things. And there's not a whole lot of people that have the patience to kind of stick with you through through those rough patches. So yeah, I'll give her a lot of that credit in terms of, at least in my adult life, because she was one of the main, like one of those pivotal um, figures that supported me despite all of these other things happening around us. And I mean, in the end, I think it worked out for us. So yeah, that kind of led me to where I am now.
Man, now y'all married, kid.
Yep. That's why I married her because like, I mean, I knew I would marry her before that, but that's just one, it's those type of things. It's situations like that where you test it, I think, that determine like, all right, this person will stay down for you through this. That you know what kind of person you got, you know? If it had been any other way, and I've been in situations where it was another way, you know, like, yeah, this ain't gonna be doing it. I'm not doing it. But with her, I had already known. I had known really in the first couple of months of knowing her, like this is the person I could see myself with, and starting the family with because we come from a very similar background. We had a lot in common, and we shared all the important values that matter to me. Not, you know, the stupid shit like what's your favorite color, but like, you know, we were on the same page about like family and, you know, how we see ourselves, you know, raising children and you know, about some things like spirituality and all these things. We came from the similar background, so we already kind of was up to speed on a lot of these things. And so for me, it was always an easy decision to make. And the rest was just like I had met her early on, but like it was just a matter of like, all right, let me get to know you. And then we lived together. So like you gotta I think you gotta live with a person before you really get to know them truly. Because, you know, they might be cool until you realize they live like, damn, bitch, you look like this. Like the goofy mean. It'd be one of them type of situations or something worse. So yeah, like once we made it to that point, I was like, all right, I think we good. I see myself marrying this person, but it was still a ways off then because it was like I don't get a pot to piss in essentially. So it was something that we kind of worked towards, but it was already like a decision that I had made in my mind,
Mm.
at least early on.
How did you guys meet?
She commissioned me to draw a picture for her while I was in college. Um, she had reached out to me through Instagram, and she was like, she wanted me to draw this thing, and she still has it too. It's the picture of my like the Egyptian goddess. Um, she had reached out to me through I think Instagram, and I had told her to email me, and it somehow turned into like a casual conversation because she was talking about like where I was from. I was like, I live in Atlanta. And she thought for some reason, she thought I was like in Boston or some shit. And I was like, no, I live in Atlanta. She was like, oh, I'm about to move there. And then it kind of turned into a friendship. So in the beginning, we were just kind of just friends. And she still lived in Philly, which is where she's from. And uh, yeah, we just became cool. And then like the attraction started to build because I found her physically attractive from the beginning, but I didn't know her and had already just came out of like a bad situation for her. So I was like, I'm not really rushing to try and get involved with you in that way. And there was a distance between us. So it was like, I can't really do anything anyway. So between the distance and like, me just trying to just focus on school and not really be getting involved with somebody too serious, we were just friends for a good little minute, which was a good thing because it gave you a chance to kind of get to know her and see like where her head was at. And then, um, yeah, that's where it started. Then we started to kind of like really like each other. And then she came down. She had came to visit, like on the Valentine's Day. So I met her in person on the Valentine's Day, and yeah, came and stayed for like the weekend, and then that went well. And then essentially we was together from that point on, and yeah, that was it. So she hadn't moved to Atlanta proper yet. It wouldn't be till like maybe a year or so later, but that was the beginning of it, and that was it. She came down and she was living here. Then we was living together, and yeah, the rest is history essentially.
Yeah, man. So what told you? So you said that she moved down and then she was living here and then you guys decided to move together. And so for people
Yeah,
in relationships, what told you or what kind of helped you confirm like yeah, like I'm ready to move in with this person? Like how long had y'all been together by that point?
by this point, it had been uh maybe over a year at least. Now I'm talking like the actual relationship part, not just us when we were just being friends.
Mm.
So like we had known each other, but then there's like then there was the point where we became like we are a couple now. And when she first moved here, I didn't live with her, but she also was living like she moved to like Boulder Crest. She was on the shitty part of town because she didn't know shit about Atlanta, and I didn't feel comfortable with her being over there by herself. And I was like, I'm about to come over there with you because I don't want you to be um, on that side of town by yourself because like you live here, so you already kind of know how it go down. And so we was there, and I do think it was the right decision to make because it was like kind of the way for me to make sure that she was straight. And from there, like that's when I was like, all right, we getting up out of here. As soon as this lease is up, like we ain't staying here longer than we need to. And you talked about motivation earlier. That was part of the motivation. So like, um, this is the beginning of me being obligated to somebody else because I don't want to just do well for myself. I want to do well for her too. I don't want her to be living in no shitty conditions. This shit is ass. So let me get my shit together so I can try and get us up out of this situation so that we can be more comfortable, And like there were no kids or anything at this point, but it was just like, yeah, but still, we don't need to be living like this. And so that these are all things that kind of motivated me to kind of want to become a better person overall. Because I'm just like, yeah, I want to live up my art, but I also want to be able to provide, you know. And so these are the things that's kind of pushing me to kind of do the things that I need to do. And she supported me in all that, you know, me leaving school and me leaving my job and everything. And so I was like, well, if she can do that for me, then I can do this for her. This is the least I can do, because she's supporting me through like a really rough time when she didn't have to, you know. She could have just went off and probably, you know, found another place by herself if she wanted to, or went back home to Philly if it really came down to it. But she didn't. She stayed out with me. And so I was like, all right, well, let me stay in this situation. And I mean, that was that. Like, we had some ups and downs, but ultimately it was just like, all right, yeah, I feel like this is gonna be the one. And she was. In the end. So now, you know, married 2 kids later, and here we are.
Man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Y'all being able to like push through the mud together, that only grows it if you guys
Yeah.
choose to stay in there. So
Yeah.
when it comes to like children, like how was it to like what was that shift? Me personally, I always think about this where parents always tell you that their child is just like the greatest thing that they've ever created. It's the thing you love the most in the world. It's just this thing, and it's like a switch. That when you become a parent, you get it, but it's kind of hard to understand if you're not a parent. Do you find that to be true a lot of times, or like for your own life?
Well, I didn't want kids. That was my mindset. For the longest. Me, it was like I want 5 kids. I was like, girl, you playing, man. Five, what you gonna do 5 kids? And I was like, you want 5? Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Think you
Yeah,
do. You
Brady.
don't want no 5 kids. He come from a big family, all girls, and they crazy. And I come from a big family, not all girls, but it's mostly girls, and they crazy too. And I was like, I don't want no big family, bro. Like, I came from a big family, and it's always something. It's always some commotion. You know what I'm saying? It's always some stress dealing with people attitudes and budding personalities and stuff. And also just like kids it's a responsibility that I was like, especially at the time when she said that, I was like, girl, shoot, we barely can get by on our own. You talking about kids. And but she had this idea in her mind that she's gonna have a Cosby family. I'm just like, girl, you that's not how it's gonna happen. And it didn't happen that way. But we eventually had kids, and like really the dynamic, what changed was that it was more of the same. Like, so, like, you know, I was saying, like with me, I had to start being more, I was obligated to somebody else outside of just myself. But having a daughter made it more so, because now it's just like this is even higher priority than just like my relationship. This is my baby girl. So like I have to make sure that she is taken care of. So by the time we had her, we were in the house. I was like, we got to get up out of this apartment. We was in another apartment, but this one wasn't much better. And so I was like, we need to get in the house because I'm trying to raise my family in a house. It wasn't the house we owned, we rented it, but it was still a house nonetheless. It gave us a little bit more space, and it was really down the street from the apartment that we was in, but it was still much better than where we were from. And so, yeah, that's really what changed, was that like I want to, having kids will do one of two things for people. It will either make you want to become a better person for the sake of your kids, or it will make you not want to be a fucking parent, and you just kind of just you know not take care of your responsibility. But if you are the first person where it's just like, all right, I need to get it together, That's probably the best case scenario because I mean, well, any parent, you want to give the goal is to give your kids a better life than what you had. And so that included things like um, my children will be raised in a household where they're not going to be witnessing us fighting all the time. They're not going to be witnessing us in here at each other's throats and hollering and screaming and me calling you out of your name. They're like, none of that's going down because I come from that and like that, and that negatively affected all of us, me and all of my siblings. And you carry that into your future relationships and stuff. So when you go out and you start a family or you're trying to, meet people, carry a lot of that baggage with you. And I was like, I'm not, and it's a cycle too. Like my mom went through that with her siblings when she was a kid, with my grandpa, my grandma. And there's a lot of parallels between her upbringing and my upbringing. And of course, we had friends who came from similar backgrounds too. I'm just like, yo, somebody got to break this cycle. So I was like, I'm gonna try and be the one to do that because I don't want this to be a thing that keeps happening. So that included like me trying to set a better example at home, being like a present father and everything, but also being married because I didn't care about being married in the beginning either. But it was a thing that was just like, we are a family now. And it was something like, I mean, I knew it mattered to her. It matters to every woman, I think, when they get in a relationship, they don't want, they do want to be married. So I'm like, okay, I need to step up and make sure that I'm doing everything that I need to do as far as my family is concerned. And then also like, we need to be a family proper, she needs to have my last name. And, uh, also we need to break this cycle of like broken homes, you know what I'm saying? Cause that was a very real thing for not just me, but also her. So that was all these things kind of led into my decisions to kind of just be like, let me try and be the person that I would have wanted like my parents to be when I was a kid. And hopefully, we can start like a new cycle of like, healthier families and relationships with our kids and when they get older. That's the hope. Try and do everything I can. But, I got my own things I gotta work through. I'm not perfect. And uh it's the thing you kind of, take one step at a time, but making the effort, which I think is, all that anybody can ask.
For sure. For sure. Man, like that's really nice. That's good. Like way to break the cycle on a lot of things. I feel like um, people in our generation we struggle with the stuff that our parents had kind of put on us, and a
Really?
lot of us feel like those chosen ones to like go against the grain, and that comes with its set of problems. And then even whenever they get it figured out, it's like then you're dealing with the dynamic between you and the person that it passed on to you from, whether it was your parent or your grandparent or your older sibling,
Mhm.
and it's
And
always
it's
just a whole can of worms.
it's never a thing that you like. It's not something I was seeking to do. It's not something that I was like, I'm going to be the chosen one to try and break the cycle of hatred. Like this Zelda or some shit. Like no, it kind of happened in that way because it was like, well, we together, we have a family. But I think because I'm aware, like I grew up through these situations, and it's like I'm keenly aware of how it impacted all of us in a negative way, like the long term impact, the long term implications that a lot of those things can have on a child growing up. And so when you are aware of it, you have to kind of be like, I can't I can't knowingly go and perpetuate the same thing. You know what I mean? Like if I know how this can impact a child to come from the kind of household or kind of situation that I grew up in, I can't knowingly subject my own children to the same thing because that's just me choosing to kind of again kind of repeat or perpetuate that cycle. So it's like it's essentially when you know better, you do better, and you got to hold yourself accountable. So I'm coming into it thinking like, all right, well, I know I can't just do the same thing that my parents did. And I know what will happen if I do. And for that reason, I have to do something different. Now, it doesn't mean I have it all figured out, but it does mean like I know what not to do. I know what not to repeat because I see what happened when they did it, or when my grandma and them and my grandpa and them did it. People on my dad's side of the family, when they did it, like it's a thing that if nobody chooses to kind of deal with it, it's just gonna keep happening. I'm just like, yo, I guess I gotta try. I don't think it hurts to try. So that's where we at now, man. So we do that. We make a conscious effort to try and be um we try and be better than what our parents were. And we try and learn from not just what they did, but what everybody else did. That includes my aunties, my uncles, everybody around them, because like I can see some of the mistakes they made and a lot of that stuff, how it could have been easily avoided. Um, I was talking earlier with my sister and with me about this stuff too, like the older generation, and they struggle with taking accountability for the things that they fell short on. Like they do not like to be told that, they don't like to be told about themselves. They don't like they don't like being told about themselves. They don't like being told that like this is where they fell short. And the minute you do, they hit you with like, oh, I was doing the best I could, and I was doing, I was young, or you was, your dad wasn't there, or your mama wasn't doing this, and it's like a lot of like pointing fingers and a lot of like trying to skirt around taking any real responsibility for their part, and a lot of the goofy shit that they had us going through. And it was some goofy shit that our parents had us going through. Like, even to this day, they look you dead in your face and they'll be acting like they didn't do the thing they did. I'm just like, yo, we grown, man. You don't got to keep on trying to act like you didn't do that. Like, I know you did that, man. Like, at this point, it's just a matter of you just being honest about it. Because I respect it more if you just be like, yeah, we was fucking up. Like, this is what it is, what it is. That kind of thing to me is just like, I'm always thinking about that when it comes to like my family, because I don't want to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? It got to be a cutoff point. Like, we can't keep doing this stupid shit, man. Like, y'all don't get tired of this. Somebody got to be saying something. And so that's where I feel like I come in. Like, I'm just trying to do the opposite of all the things I feel like my parents did not do that I feel like they could have done, or not even just them, but like, my friends' parents, because I watched it with them, um, you know, aunties and uncles, all that stuff. So, yeah, man, trying to learn from not just your experiences, but other people's experiences. Big thing for me.
For sure. Sure. What kind of things are you doing differently now? You spoke earlier about there being a lot of violence, a conflict in the house, especially in front of the children. So what kind of things do you do now to be different, in your relationships and just as a person?
Um, well, for starters, I don't do that shit. Like,
Don't fight.
I'm not gonna say no. Like, me and Mia, we've had arguments, we've had conflicts and things like that. But I make it a point to, one, I don't do that. If like, that's very rare, especially now. At best, we might get annoyed with each other, but like, we not in here yelling at each other. But even then, if we having a conversation that we feel like is not appropriate for kids, we not having it in front of the kids. Um, Try and keep that stuff separate from them so they don't have to see anything like that. I want, it's important to me that like the kids see parents kind of love each other, because I think they need a reference point for what that looks like. So when they get older, they don't grow up thinking that like it's okay for somebody to slap you around or something. Um, that stuff starts at home. Um, Kids need to be able to have a reference point. They need to be able to see like, this is what it means for somebody to take care of their family. This is what it means for somebody to be affectionate. Um, I try to do all those things. Because of the nature of my work, I've always been able to be home. So I didn't have to put my kids in anybody's daycare or anything like that. So they grew up from their very young years with me in the house with them. Um, and just kind of just helping them learn those early things that kids learn, learning how to talk, learning how to walk, learning how to do all the going to the bathroom, um, spending time with them, playing outside, taking them places, all the stuff that you would expect a parent to do. Um, which sounds like duh, it sounds like, yeah, that's what parents do. But it's not something that I always grew up with, you know what I'm saying? My mom wasn't home a lot because she was a flight attendant. And so my dad would just be out doing whatever the hell he was doing. So it would be a lot of times where we were at home by ourselves. It's the reason why we learned a lot of skills early on in life. Like we learned how to cook and clean and wash dishes and wash clothes. And super young, I was in middle school when I learned how to fry chicken. Like I was in there learning how to cook stuff because my mom wouldn't be home all the time. Now my older sister, she was the one who did all the cooking for the most part. Well, my mama didn't when she wasn't home. But we also learned how to cook stuff too outside of her. So because it was just a matter of just having the skill to do it. So we was doing all that stuff. And so that kind of thing to me is I want to be present for my kids so they don't have to experience that. They need to have somebody. I know people who got first of all, daycare is expensive. That's already a thing that I'm just like, no. But also the fact that I really don't like the idea of having my kids around a person I don't know, because I experienced that growing up. Having my mom had us around weird babysitters and stuff because my dad wouldn't be there sometimes. And it was a lot of opportunities for something to happen. Somebody could have tried to assault us or something like that, but luckily none of that happened, at least not to my knowledge, not with me, not that I know with my siblings, but it could have. And that's the thing. And you don't know, what I'm saying? People weird, people, in strange situations. And I was like, when I have my kids, we won't be doing none of that. So always there with her, always there with Rio when they were kids, especially when they were really small. Um, Somebody has to be there with them. Me was working. And so I was like, I'm home. They don't need to go to daycare, bro. I just take care of them during the day. And then when she would get off work, they eat dinner, go to bed. And then I would do a lot of my stuff at night, like drawing and stuff. So, which was fine for me because that's kind of what I would do when I was a kid anyway. So she did that up until she went on maternity leave with Rio. And then that's when um, I told her that she should stay home because she was missing out on a lot of those, she missed out when Rio started walking. She missed his first steps and she was not feeling good about missing a lot of these things. So I was like, you should stay home when you go on maternity leave. Then you should that should be your last day. And from that point on, I would just take care of us myself so you can be here with them at least until they start school. And that's what we did. She was there with them. It was about 5 years of that. And she just went back to work this year. And that was that. So yeah. But even now, I always work from home. So Laura gets home from school, Rio gets home from school, I'm there to get them from the bus. And I'm there to take them to the bus in the morning. And so there's always somebody here that's present. There's always somebody here that can kind of help them, whether that be with homework, whether that be with just just doing little things. They both like to draw. So they like to do that kind of thing on their own time. Yeah, man, I try to do stuff like that. I try to be just more active, more present than my parents were able to be when I was a kid, because I do think that they need that kind of time and that affection. And ultimately it's going to be the thing that you'll know if you did your job when you get older and you start, needing some assistance and you start needing somebody to kind of look out for you. You'll know if you did your job, if your kids are there for you the way that you were there for them, because I've seen what it looks like when you weren't. And it's a sad sight, man. It really is. Cause it's you was I know my uncle before he passed, he was like this. He was a ladies man too. So he used to do a lot of traveling and a lot of, messing around with different women. He had a whole book. This man had a book dedicated to all the women he was involved
Oh my God.
in. but he had like a few different kids from a few different situations, and like he was not the father he should have been. Like, and in the end, when it was his time, he did not have them to fall back on. He did not have the support of his children. They didn't really want to be bothered with him, and it's sad, because it's like if had you been the father that you should have been, it probably would have been different, and it probably would have given you more reason to live. But that's how it happens. So I'm like, that's not gonna be me. I don't want that to be me. I don't want that to be my story. So we trying to learn from those decisions, those experiences from others, and also what we experience, so we don't have to kind of put our kids in a similar situation.
That's real. And like I even think about like on the other side, my grandmother passed last year, and as she was like deteriorating, like before then, my grandma would work. She would be so frustrating to like live with. But then once I learned that things got real and that she was actually, in a fight for her life, it was no hesitation to step up and do anything for her because of
Hmm.
the kind of impact she's had on me and my life.
Yeah, you want to make it to where it's like because I mean they wiped your ass, you know. That's the way I see it. But if I grew up and I don't feel as though you played that role, why should I care to do that for you? You know, that'd be like, you coming around years later. I was like, man, like I don't know you. I don't, and I don't have any affection or respect for you. So yeah, you got to do that. And I feel like you would be playing yourself to go out here and make kids, and you not being the parent that you should be. Because in the end, like you will answer for that. I don't know that people realize that, but it's one of those things where it's like it's a long term implication of your decisions that you might not see the immediate impact of it, but like kids in the beginning, uh they give you a lot of grace because they want to be a part of your life. They want you to be, they want to be around and they want you to be around. But after a certain point, they stop caring. They get indifferent. And once they reach the indifference stage, it's a wrap. You don't want to get caught at that point because then it's going to be like something happened to you. They're going to be like, I don't care because effectively they don't really have a relationship with you. So I think about that stuff a lot. I don't want that to be a situation that I find myself in because everybody has to. We all get old. Some of us end up having health issues, and sometimes we don't have our spouse to help us through it. Sometimes they, like in the case of your grandma, like your grandpa had already passed. So like, and that too makes it hard for people to want to continue to keep going because it's just like, this big part of your life has already moved on. You know, I don't necessarily want to be without them. And I kind of feel like I need to go ahead and just join them. But sometimes you still have things to live for. I think when you have family or friends and people around you that's supportive, that means something to you, it gives you more reason to kind of keep going, try and persevere. But when you don't, you can just go like, nah, yeah, I'm good. That was the case with my uncle. He got sick and he deteriorated super fast over the course of a year. And I don't think that he needed to go out the way that he did, but I think that he was very unhappy with his life, the state of his life. He went from having a whole lot to basically having nothing. And he didn't have the best relationship with, his siblings, my aunties and my uncle. Didn't have a good relationship with his kids. And it was just one of them things where it was just like, well, or if nobody really cares, then why am I still sitting around? And then like, he told my mom he had a dream that he saw like a grandma and she told him to come on home and that was it. He was like, yep, I'm about to go.
Hmm.
And then that was when he decided to basically just like stop trying or stop caring enough to hold on, I guess. And yeah, man, it's unfortunate. Like I think about that a lot because it was something that could have been prevented. like you could have had, you know, it could have been a scenario where you were there and you played the role that you should have, and you would have had the people around you that would have been encouraging you and supporting you and helping you and giving you reason to fight. And you didn't because you wasn't there when they needed you. And yeah, I know it's a cycle, like, because that started with his parents, you know? I didn't know my grandparents because they died when I was young, but I know enough about them to know that, like, they grew up in a similar kind of turmoil that we grew up in, and it's the reason why ultimately I think he was the man that he was in the end. So, yeah, I'll be looking at, not just with him, but just people in general. Like, I'll be trying to, like, find a lesson in people's lives and experiences like this, because it ain't the kind of thing I wanna have to go through. I don't wanna have to find that out the hard way, you know?
For sure.
It's rough.
Sure. It sounds like the way that you take care of your family now, I don't think you'll have anything to worry about in that aspect. It seems like you're a damn good father right now, you know?
Yeah,
And
I try to be. I definitely, I think I have my own quirks about myself because I'm not, like, I'm affectionate and, like, I'm present with my kids to a degree, but I am so used to being comfortable by myself that sometimes I kinda expect them to be the same way, and they're not like that, especially because they're kids. And it's one of them things I have to constantly remind myself of. Like, I can get so caught up in just, like, drawing for hours that I have to be like, "I need to actually put this down and, go spend some time around my kids." Because, I mean, I told you earlier, like, I didn't really necessarily want to have kids in the first place, and part of the reason I felt that way was because, like, I know I'm kinda selfish with my time, and so it's one of those things I had to kinda, like, unlearn because, yeah, I do what I do ultimately to kinda take care of my family, but, like, there's plenty of stories of people who, like, I'll go to work to take care of my family, but work becomes more important than the kids, and in the end, the kids only remember that you weren't there, you know? They don't necessarily care that you was doing it because you had to make money, and sometimes these people use it as an excuse too to not really deal with their family too. There's also that, but yeah, I think you have to find a balance, um, and you have to be mindful of, like, some of your own kind of personality quirks. Because, yeah, I can be comfortable. I'm comfortable by myself. I don't go out. I don't really spend a lot of time hanging out. I don't go places like that. If I do, it's usually as a family, or it's to go see family. Very rarely do I just go hang out with friends at an event or something like that. So I'll be in the house chilling, or I'll be in here drawing, and I'm content. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need or ask for much outside of that. Um, but my kids are not like that. They social. They want to be out. They want to go places. They want to do things. And it's like, man, he making me do stuff. I don't want to do stuff, but, like, I gotta do it. I got it because, like, they want that. You know what I'm saying? So,
interesting.
so there's like I try and make sure I do it.
Yeah. It must be weird having something that came from you kind of act opposite to you, because then you're like, dang, like where does this come
And
from?
I think, in terms of their personality, they're more like their mom than they are like me. They have, I think they both have my interest in art, like all kids tend to have. I don't think it's a thing that's all that unique. I think most kids like to draw, but um, outside of that, in terms of their personality, um, Zora in particular, she's very outgoing, very social, always wanting to talk and make friends and go places and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not like that, and I've never been like that. Like, I'm always been kind of quiet and reserved and to myself. Like, I goof off and shit when I'm around, like, in the company of friends and people I know. But when I'm just to myself, I'm around people who are, like, strangers. I'm just not really all that social, and I don't really have a desire to be. So And Mia is not really like that either. She really kind of a roughneck because she come from Philly and she used to living in the city, dealing with crazy people all day. And she has the kind of you wouldn't know it by looking at her, but she has a rough exterior. She has a potty mouth. And like between the two of us, I'm just like, yeah, neither one of us seem to really like people all that much, but we like each other. Um, but our kids they're social. Well, Zori is real, not so much. He's content. He's like me in terms of, he's fine being to himself, doing his own thing. Zora though, that girl, he wants to be in the place where things are happening, and she hates the idea of being left out. So yeah, man, it's something we got to deal with a lot. I think it's like, two negatives make a positive type of situation with her. Cause yeah, I'll be finding myself wondering like, how is it that you are like this? And neither one of your parents are like this, but she is. So like for her, and you know what that means too. You also got to make friends with so in the neighborhood, she make friends with the neighborhood kids, which means now we got to get to know the parents because I got to make sure ain't nothing crazy going on. So it's just like, man, you're making me talk to these folks. I don't want to talk to these folks, but that's part of being a parent. That's part of like when you have kids, you not only do you have to start getting to know the other neighborhood kids and the parents, you also have to start to a degree parenting other people's kids because you find out other people's kids is bad as hell. So
Oh, or they come over and
I'm
then they
like,
start acting crazy.
yeah, her friend who lived next door, she come over the house, man. That little girl be doing all kind of goofy stuff. I'd be like, listen, we ain't getting down like that. You gotta get him in line. And you never want to be that person that has to do it, but like it's either you do it or like they start doing crazy stuff around your kid. And then like I don't got no qualms about going upside a kid. I'm not one of them kind of parents. Like, listen, I believe in the whooping. Like I grew up with that. So that ain't get lost. But I don't want it to go to that. So you gotta kind of parent other people's kids sometimes. Man, you go to the park, man, a little badass kid at the park, they're doing some goofy stuff, and you be like, man. And the parent over there ain't paying attention, so you gotta step in. These are all things that come with having kids, man. Like it's so much more than you probably think about initially. Because it's like, yeah, I got my little kid, and we going off doing nothing. Nope, because your kid is in the world. They going to school. They're gonna be exposed to other things, and you don't deal with that no more because you out of school. You an adult now, but they got to go through that whole thing, and they got things going on that they gonna want you to show up for and be a part of. They got friends they want to start hanging out with and all this other stuff. And it's just like, yep, this is part of being a parent.
Man, that's like that's a whole nother part of life. That's like
Yep.
um
And listen, I can't fault nobody if they say like, yeah, I don't want to have to deal with this. It's too much, man. I can't fault nobody because it is. It's a lot. It's a lot for a person like me because listen, I'm one of them kind of folks where it's just like, I'm very lax. I'm very chill about a lot of things. I'm not looking to um I'm taking the path of least resistance whenever possible. So that's the kind of person I am when it comes to a lot of things. I'm not looking to be stressed out about nothing, but just the nature of having kids will bring some of that inevitably because it has to. So it's not bad. It's not all bad, but it's just the reality of it. And it's worth considering for a person who says like, oh, I want kids. You may or may not want everything that comes with it. Sometimes when people have kids when they're young, um, it's about the aesthetics, it's about the superficial stuff. It's not about the real meaningful like part that comes with raising kids. And I waited. I tried to wait till I was about 30. I think I made it till I think I was 28, 29 when I had my first child. But I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm trying to have no kids right now because what for? At this point, I ain't really even done nothing in life. And I'm trying to make sure I even have that time to myself before I start worrying about a little child. So I wasn't in a rush to even have kids. Even when I was like, all right, I'll have one. I still wasn't in a rush. I was trying to wait till I was about 30 at least.
hmm.
So I would encourage people to, well, first of all, don't be having kids with nobody that you don't see yourself with, that you ain't, don't make no broken home. But even then, I wouldn't rush. You know what I'm saying? Live your life a little bit. Experience some time with just the two of y'all if you can. And if you want kids, I would say bring them around when you are in a position to take care of them. Because again, the goal is to give your kid a better life than the one that you had. And if you can do that much, I think that you think you're doing all right. So yeah.
I remember we spoke one time about you potentially making something uh, equivalent to like a Mr. Rogers or something that can be inspirational for kids with art. Is that still something that you would like to do one day?
It's still something that I'm chipping away at in the background, but it's uh it's still too early for me to really go into much detail about it. And also I don't want to necessarily because it's too I'm one of those kind of people who, when it comes to things like this or things that I'm working towards or want to do, until it's in full motion, feel like I shouldn't talk too much about it because I feel like it's going to defeat the purpose of me doing it. Whereas it's like I'm talking about it as if it's already done when I should have something to kind of, I guess, show for what it is I want to do. So I'm gonna hold off on it for now. But yeah, I'm still working towards that idea. It hasn't changed. And yeah, I still do think that it's a thing that is needed. That just goes into my whole belief in how there's not really a whole lot for kids in the way of like teaching and encouraging kids about art. And I mean, to be fair, it wasn't a whole lot of that when I was a kid either, but there were some things. There was Pappy Land, and there was The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross. And these were just like kind of just general like painting, drawing kind of things. It wasn't anything specialized like animation or comic art. It was just kind of like, this is art stuff. And for that alone, it fascinated me. That and just like it Bob Ross' presence um was always like a calming thing, especially when, given the way I grew up. So that was one of those kind of things I would put on TV and I'll be like, yeah, I like this. I like Mr. Rogers for the same reason. And that had nothing to do with art, but it was the same kind of like kind of calming presence that came with him. But with Bob Ross in particular, it was just like, yeah, he in here teaching people about art, you know? And that's that kind of thing. If you grew up in that time, then yeah, you have some affection for it. But Zora's not watching that. My child not gonna be watching Bob Ross. She gonna be like, this old. She's not gonna have no interest in something like that. But she has an interest in art and learning about art. She has an interest in looking at videos of people doing things and watching them do it and learning how to do it herself. So like the interest is there, but I just think there's not enough dedicated content for kids to kind of help them with that or generate that interest for them. Like I think there's with YouTube, there's some of that stuff for sure, but not nearly, not nothing in terms of like network television for sure. There ain't nothing on there that I can think of. If anybody knows something, you can let me know. But I think we need that. There's like a vacuum that has been left with stuff like Mr. Rogers and Joy Painting and some of these shows we grew up with. Everything now is so like energetic and, you know, it's nothing chill. It's no chill stuff for the kids, man. That's what I'm trying to get at. We need something chill for the kids to make them sit their ass down and draw and do something that is meticulous and thoughtful and creative and not just some goofy stuff that they've probably seen on TikTok. I think kids need that. They need, and like the kids, to their credit, when I go, like I look at the stuff that like the kids are doing in Zora's and Rio school, they do this stuff. They create stuff in school. They create little arts and crafts and stuff like that. There's a lot of creativity in little kids, and that, like you start to see it get snuffed out um, as they get older. It doesn't help that a lot of these things get cut out of the programs in school because it's not a priority. So it's like that stuff starts to go out like a little candle, and It's a shame. I watched it happen when I was a kid. I remember like everybody being into art, and then like right at the end of middle school, going into high school, everybody wanted to do something different. Everybody wanted to play sports. Everybody wanted to do something, or be in the streets or something crazy like that. And I was just like, a lot of times it was because they didn't have people around them to encourage them to keep them on the same path. But other times it was just like, yeah, they didn't probably even know that this was an option in the first place. They never really knew that they could probably just like do something in art, you know?
Yeah.
I think that some people gave up too soon, or they didn't know to try because they never saw it. So I feel as though it's our responsibility as the artists today to kind of make that happen. Because I mean, I'm not gonna sit around and wait for them to do it because they don't really seem too interested in that. So I think that the ideas come from us. I think it's on us to put it out there.
Yeah.
Is that simple?
That's so real. That's part of the reason why I even started the podcast to begin with, is because when I was growing up as an artist, you had like maybe three pathways. You had tattoos, you had gallery
Yep.
paintings, or if you wanted to do animation. And it wasn't even all the nuances. Like, I didn't know about storyboards. I didn't know about, visual development. I didn't know about, like all the different like color scripting and all these different niches of the industry. It was just make cartoons, tattoos, gallery, and maybe comics, maybe. But I know comics had gotten a bad rep because they said like it was just hard to make a lot of money with comics, or it was just a lot of work for not as much pay. Um, but there's so
Well,
many different ways.
I mean,
Hmm?
comics like animation. It's a labor of love. Um, it's a lot of work that goes into making comics. It's a lot of work going into being an animator in particular. And comics can be a thing that like sometimes you can make a creator own thing and it may take off. It may be a thing that kind of like takes you somewhere. But if you're talking about doing it at like, let's say Marvel or DC, um, yeah, it's not paying a whole lot. And so it really does have to, and they don't take the best care of their artists. So it has to be a labor of love, because what else is going to keep you doing it other than that? Like, you're not making a whole lot of money doing it. And I mean, that's unfortunate. This isn't the case for comics across the board, but like, it just in general is the publishers don't pay a whole lot. And there's other things that you can do. I mean, you can make your own. I think I think if you care enough to do comics, you might as well just do your own. I wouldn't necessarily um, worry about trying to do it for Marvel or anything like that, because I mean, just coming in, breaking into the industry, you're not gonna get a whole lot. You have to become one of those superstar artists to where like you can make crazy money selling your pages, selling your original art, selling, but that's because you built the name around you, not necessarily like you may have worked at Marvel per se. You'd be like a Jim Lee or somebody. But you've built a name around yourself, and people come to care about you and your work. So you can make good money selling your work based on the name you've made for yourself. But that's not the story for everybody. And I think that if you're going to be bothered to do comics, which is already a lot of work, you might as well put that work into your own ideas, your own creative ventures, because at least then you own and control it. And, if it becomes the next thing that blows up, then you get to take all the credit for that. Everything else, when I was growing up, it was the same old stuff. As far as art, to the average person who didn't know anything about it, their thing was like, you should do tattoos. Uh, you should do what's the other one?
Graphic design,
You
logo.
should design my album art. You should do t-shirt designs. Because they don't have any frame of reference. They don't know. Um, and my parents didn't know. They knew I liked to draw. That was about it. They didn't really know how to point me in the direction of anything that would kind of help stimulate that. So you kind of set out and find what you resonate with. In the beginning, I thought I wanted to be an animator, but I was like, no, I don't, because I don't want to draw that much. I like drawing, but I don't want to draw that much. And what I settled on was like, I actually like designing things. I like drawing characters. And so it helped me kind of find what it is I like in particular and zeroed in on that. And, but you only find that through kind of just being allowed to even explore it, you know? You don't really know what you like. You might like drawing, but you don't know exactly what it is that you like to draw until you've had time to experiment and try things. You might try painting and find that you like that more than drawing. You might find that you don't like it. You might find that you like sequential storytelling. So you might get into like storyboarding or you might get into comics. Um, and with art in particular, like there's so many different things that you can do under that umbrella that it's like, it's just like the sky's the limit, really. You can do anything. You can just sell your own art on the internet, and that might be enough for many people. So I think you need to be given the space to kind of just find it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that people are always allowed that. And it's sad, really, because the alternative is people be out here uh doing stuff that they hate or doing stuff they don't want to do because somebody said this is what they should do, you know? You need to go to school to do this, that, and the other, or you need to uh I know like I got family members who like one of my cousins, she put her son, she like they were real adamant about her son being in football. And he doesn't like it. Not only that, but he doesn't shine in it. And it's also something that doesn't serve his temperament because he's very competitive and hates to lose. And I found out that this boy can fucking draw as good as I can or better at a younger age. And I was talking to my cousin. I was like, why the hell y'all got this boy playing football? If you don't get that man in front of your cousin and do this for a living, you telling me that he was good? Like I did not realize how good he was until she showed me this man art. I'm just like, why you got this man throwing the football like, and he don't even really want to, like at least to me, he didn't really want to do it like that. But it's what they wanted to do, and it was one of the things where it's like I feel as though y'all living vicariously through him, and you're not really considering what it is that he might like. And I'm like, you don't just get this good by happenstance. Like you get good like this when you are invested in it. You know what I'm saying? And he was good. But ultimately nothing really happened with it because like, you know, they didn't really nurture it. And to me, it feels like a waste, you know what I'm saying? Because now it's just like, you know, I feel as though too much time in the past, he didn't had a child, not doing well in school type stuff. So it's just like, yeah, feel as though you push him in a direction that his his build was not necessarily meant for this. You know, his build was more in line with the things that we do. And at the very least, I feel like you could have let him see where it would have taken him. And I think that you might have found that it would have taken him far had he been given a chance or been at least encouraged to. So yeah, man, it's a lot of that's a lot of people's story too. You see some people they be doing some crazy stuff, and it's just like, why you doing this?
Yeah,
It's just like,
I know a lot of parents who feel like because they don't know all the different uh, niches or the different ways to succeed in art, they hear, that a child wants to be an artist and they just think like, oh, you're just going to be starving artist. You're not going to be able to take care of yourself or only the best make it. Like, what would you give? What kind of advice would you give to a parent that has a child that wants to do art and like they don't really know anything about the profession and they're just scared that like the child is setting themselves up to be a starving artist?
well, the starving artist thing is like it can be a real thing, but it's all in how you go about it. You know, I think it would benefit kids or people who are younger that are interested in art. I think it would benefit them to see or spend time around working professionals to see how it goes, to see what would be expected of them in a career like that, and to see that it's very possible to do it. You know, for me, I think for people like me and you, because we black, so we growing up in a space where it's like, um, it's a big deal when you see people who look like you doing the kind of thing that you want to do. Because I didn't necessarily see it like that growing up. So it was just like, oh, so if people really do be out here doing this thing, and he telling me they look like me too, and I can also be. It gives you another level of like, I guess reassurance. They're like, oh yeah, you can do it, you can do it too. There's people out here doing it. Ain't no reason you can't do it too. So like, I think kids and people need to see that. The parents won't know it necessarily, and they looking at it like, you're gonna be on the corner singing your shoulda, coulda, wouldas. But the reality is, um, there's a lot of things that you can do to get paid in doing art, as a career. But you just have to be exposed to it. You got to be educated on those things. And like, can you be a starving artist? Absolutely. There's plenty of those right now, because a lot of it comes down to, the state of the industry, how well you plan for the ups and downs. Because some people, they rely solely on the industry job to carry them, and I think that's a mistake. You can't have just, 'cause what do you do when that's not an option? You got to have something. So you do other things in between. Whether that be taking smaller gigs or something freelance, or doing your own commission work, your own storefront. You got to have something to fall back on during those times where it's the dry season. And if you do it well enough, then you won't be a starving artist, or at the very least, you'll be able to get by. And parents need to be able to see that, as well as the kids who have an interest in it, so they can know, like, it's not a death sentence for your kid. There's challenges that come with it, with anything. But, and I think it's important to have an honest conversation about that, which is why I'm big on things like, you need to be honest about where you are in terms of your skill level, and how much work you put in, and, how you spend your time, all of it, just being accountable in general. I'm big on those kind of things, because like, in the end, that's what's going to be the thing that makes or breaks you, is how well you're able to do that. And, um, giving people like just an example to follow, giving them like something they can look at and be like, oh, there's people who are doing this. They're finding a way, despite everything else going on around here, like, or AI concerns, or the industry in shambles, or, social media and all this other stuff and other things that's kind of distracting people. There's always somebody out there that's still finding a way to persevere. And as long as there's that, then there's no reason for you to not do it as well. There's nothing stopping you.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. Um, I wanna I wanna discuss AI real quick about. I think that you have a really nice perspective on AI and AI art and artists in relationship to it. That may or may not be popular. Some people might think it's a hot take. I really enjoy it because you discuss it in the way of it uh, putting the power back into the artist's hands instead of just being like a victim to this phenomena that's going on. And so, for people who don't really know um, about AI or about AI art, it's the way that ChatGPT has been exploding. There's been other programs that also create images based on specific prompts that you tell the machine to make. And because of that, people and companies are making imagery that can sometimes be a little shoddy, but it's like good enough to pass by a lot of times. And so a lot of artists are in distress because it it poses a threat to people's work and their livelihood. And so it causes a lot of frustration amongst artists in the industry, especially the ones that do like visual development or illustration heavy, because that's what the machine is able to do, seemingly faster and for certain people even better than they can. But how do you feel about people who are like, or not? How do you feel about the people, but how do you feel about AI's position in the world, and like what that means for creatives, or like how should people press forward in the face of AI?
I think that people have valid concerns as it relates to AI, but I also think that people spend too much time obsessing over it because it's a way for them to say this is why they're not where they want to be. And throughout history, there's always something that puts artists in a situation to where they may feel as though the thing that they're doing is being threatened. And in the case of AI, like it will take jobs, but it's going to take jobs that can easily be done by AI. So that includes a lot of the menial jobs that don't require much in the way of like um, human expression. Some of the stuff that you see with AI in terms of like industry stuff, it's shoddy work at best. It's not really at a point where it can replace artists wholesale. And it's hard to say that it ever will be. It's getting better as a on a technical level, but it's not. It's limited by what you tell it to do and what you feed into it. It's no real nuance. Uh, there's no real problem solving or decision making. There's only like putting things into it and trying to get something out that resembles this idea I have in my mind. Whereas a human can kind of just like, this is the idea I have. I'll put it down and it's either a good one or it's not. And if it's not, I can take the best parts of it and move it to something else. And even with the AI stuff, you still have to have a human artist to kind of have to come behind you to kind of like make sense of the mess that it spits out. So it's not really quite there yet. Um, the whole legal battle in terms of everything surrounding AI, um, that's one thing. But for the everyday person on the internet, that's just like, because here's the thing, AI as a technology is here. I don't see it going anywhere. It's being integrated into everything that people can think to put it into. And yeah, it will be the end of some jobs that are easily replaceable. Um, and if that happens to be you, if you fall in that category, then you have real reason to be concerned. But for a lot of artists, because art is so broad and because it's so, a lot of it is based on like different niches and what you are into, there's always a lane that I think you can find to make a living as an artist. And also, um, I think we're reaching the point where like, yeah, having work in the industry is nice, but it's not the end all be all. And you can't expect them to save you. You have to be able to have ways to put your own ideas, your own creations out there. And what you're seeing now is a lot of people kind of um, putting more effort into indie uh, projects and people who are getting back into like traditional art and things that can't really be replicated through AI. Like I don't think about AI a lot personally because like I work, I work digitally as my work um, requires me to, but in my personal stuff, that stuff that I do for myself on my own time, I like working traditionally because I like tangible artwork that I can make with my hands and can't like AI can't take that from me. I mean, AI can't take anything from me if I made it. Like I made it, you might copy it, but like, I mean, ultimately I sit down that I made it. But it's taking a step further with something that I actually physically made in the real world. And so um, there will always be, I think, an interest or a market for stuff like that because people like art and people like human expression. And that's something that you can't necessarily get through AI. Um, Now it will be there to create products, which is different. And products is a thing that like, we're here to sell something. We're here to cut costs. We're here to try and find ways to make money. Then yeah, we're going to use this AI thing wherever we see we can because why wouldn't we? We are a company. We are in the business of making money. I think the everyday artist though, Like, it's not going to be the end of you. And I don't think that you do yourself any favors to obsess over it, because ultimately it's a thing that's out of your control. Like, it's here. It's not, you can't stop it. You can't go back in time like, Kyle Reese in Terminator and be like, I'm going to kill the first person who created the idea of AI. Like, it's here and it's only going to evolve and change as time goes. Um, there are some people who are embracing it. They're even incorporating it into their workflow. And there's people who look down on that. They say that this is, you know, front to God. You should not even consider ever wanting to use it. But the people who are choosing to use it are people who are of the mindset that, like, I need to use it and make it my ally, so it doesn't become like an obstacle or an enemy for me. And that's I mean, if that's how you feel about it, that's how you feel about it. I personally don't care about AI, um, because I like art, because I like to see I like to see how people express themselves through their art. I look at people who do art for different reasons, because I have different tastes for, depending on, the thing and the person who made it. And a lot of AI stuff to me just looks kind of like the same, the same kind of look and feel, because it's pulling a lot of the same generic things from the same places. So yeah, I don't see it going anywhere. I see it being used by companies and being incorporated every step of the way, wherever they can find a way to fit it in. But I also don't see a point in obsessing over it. I really don't. Because, we talk about AI still in art, but real humans still my art all the time. And it's something that's been ongoing for, as long as I've been putting my art on the internet, really. And that's something that I think is more problematic than the AI stuff. Because I can physically point to a person doing it. People selling your stuff even. They stealing it. They didn't even put it through a prompt, so they didn't change it. They took your artwork, they put it through a prompt, or they put it on a shirt or a piece of merch, and they selling it, you know? And even with that, I had to learn to just be like, yeah, I can't stop it. I can't stop it. Like, cause they're going to do that. It's on the internet. I can't really, there's no amount of like watermark or anything like that that will stop a person from stealing your art if they want to steal it. And even if you do all that, they can copy it. If they want to get around that, they can remove it through, it's very easy to remove watermark from the artwork now. So it's not even a point putting it on there, I don't think, anymore. Um, but the fact is, people steal. And this has always been a thing. And this is going to be true for you as an artist too. If you put your art on the internet, if it's popular, if it's good and it's popular and it makes the rounds, expect it to be stolen, expect it to show up at somebody's kiosk in somebody's mall. Um, expect people to copy and bite it. But also, if it's good and if it resonates with a lot of people, people come to associate that thing with the person who made it first, and so everything else becomes an imitation. So this would be like if I wanted to draw like Akira Toriyama. We all know what Akira Toriyama's work looks like. I can't be him. And even if I do work that's based on his or inspired by his, people will always look at it and say, that reminds me of Dragon Ball. That reminds me of Dragon Quest. You will always be compared to the one who did it before you. And that's not really a place I want to be in. I don't mind if people see inspirations in the stuff that I do, but I don't want to be a second-rate version of the person who did it best. That's stupid to me. And for that, also for the same reason, I don't trip about people stealing artwork like that anymore, because I expect it. If it's good, people will steal it. And yeah, do what you can to mitigate it, I guess. But just understand that, like, if it's on the internet, you have essentially consented to somebody at some point trying to steal it, because that's what people do when they don't value your art. They just gonna just take it. And this falls in line with my philosophy of not stressing about things that I can't control. I can't control people stealing. I can't control people online right clicking and saving. I can't control people that bite. I can't control people that want to put your stuff through a prompt on, when these AI generators or whatever. I can't control none of that, but I can control what I choose to do with my time, which is infinitely more valuable to me, because as you get older, you start to realize like that shit is It's fleeting, and you don't have a whole lot of time in a day. Just, go online, sending cease and desist and takedown notices. Like that shit is exhausting. At least for me. Other people they might feel differently about it. It's whatever. But hey, yeah, I've been there, and it's stressful. And I was like, I'm not doing this no more. This is stupid. Doing all that just to get up the next day, and it's like 30 more in this place. Like, yeah, it's a losing battle, man. So
Feels
that's
like
where
a
I am
whack.
with that. Yeah, a whack-a-mole game that you can't win. You just simply can't win. You got people in Indonesia and stuff on socks. Give it up, bro. Give it up. You can make something new. That's the beauty of it. As an artist, you always have the power to make something new, something that has never before been seen, and you can share it with the world, and you can build a name for yourself around your art. People could come to know you for the thing you made. And that's the difference between something like you and AI. Because if it's AI, then it's just a computer, and nobody can really point to a person in particular for the creation of the thing. But when it comes from you, it's part of your self-expression. People can say, yeah, this person made this thing, and we give them like reverence for it. So when you hear a person name like Akira Toriyama or Kim Jong-gi or Bingus or any of these people who we grew up kind of enjoying, you'd be like, yeah, you associate them with the thing you love because they made it. And I think the world is better for it because everybody came to, can come together around the thing that you made. That is for me what it's about. And I mean, you just simply won't get that through AI. You get some cheap products and some cheap content for sure. And it'll be bad, but it's not going to be a thing that, make the same impact as something that was made lovingly, I think, by an artist. So, yeah. But don't be one of those people who like stick your head in the sand and just think like, you know, if I just cover my ears and say la la la, then it's not happening. But like, yeah, it's gonna happen. But also like it's not the end of the world. You still always find a way to persevere.
Absolutely. I think that's I think that's a great spot to end it on. I think that's like something that can just ring in people's ears towards the end of it, you know.
So
Yeah.
either that or shoot, find another line of work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you gave people many keys during this conversation. I just want to thank you once again for uh for doing this and for being here and for being able to share your experience and your expertise with these people, with the people watching now, and with the people that will be watching and listening later. And just thank you for being the creative that you are. You have been somebody who has inspired me since I was in middle school, and it's been cool to be able to watch you grow at the same time. And even like we were saying before, with people being able to kind of see you as you come up, you were one of those artists for me, and I think since that, you've been able to give me a ton of great keys that has truly shaped my style. And like, I would not be the artist today if it wasn't for your influence. So I just wanted to give you those flowers. Thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate it. I try not to take that kind of thing for granted because I mean it is kind of weird. Um, to kind of be that person to somebody else when I was like looking to other people in that same way. It's like one of those full circle moments. So yeah, I do try and acknowledge that, and I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, shoot. Would you, I can turn on chat real quick and see, are you down to answer any questions that people might have real quick?
Yeah, if anybody got some questions,
Let's see if they have any. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions for Nuri real quick, I'm gonna drop them in the chat and I'll read them off. Remember last time I tried this, nobody had any questions. I think I took it as a good sign that we covered everything. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to answering questions if people got them. No,
let's see. We'll see. No one should thrive to be the next someone else. Influence is perfectly fine, but thriving should always focus on personal growth and no one like and one's one likeness. Wait, hold on. What? Thriving should always focus on personal growth and and on one's likeness. Okay, one's own likeness. Okay,
one's own likeness.
cool. Thank you both for your great conversation. Very welcome.
Appreciate you, mileage.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got from work. All good. All good. Well, I think don't have any questions, so I think we covered enough, man.
A great interview. Appreciate you, Richard.
Yeah. Hey, what is a practice for you when struggling for an idea to draw?
Um, if I'm struggling for an idea, it helps me to get inspiration from other things. Um, Sometimes I like to watch, um, just like art videos, watching people create things. Sometimes I like to look at other people's art. Sometimes I like to just kind of just doodle and work through like kind of like little brain farts, like when I'm just trying to put something on the page and just kind of just draw something until something comes out that is like something that resembles a good idea. Um, yeah, all these different things I'll find little bits of inspiration in or ideas in, and that's usually what kind of gets me going. Like in the morning, because I get up early because I get the kids to school. I don't always immediately draw. Sometimes I just like I'll make like some coffee and I'll watch videos related to art, and that kind of gets me uh kind of gets my brain kind of working, kind of gets me excited to sit down and draw. Not doodling basic shapes, just kind of just doodling things, little characters and stuff like that. Um, or just like an idea that I might have had in my mind for a while. Sometimes it turns into a full blown thing. Um, and sometimes it's just like a way to kind of get me like the engine running in my head. And from there I'll just kind of just start working on something.
I see. Yeah. I think it's good whenever you can kind of get some seeing something really cool and then it kind of kickstarts you in the day. Like I find that playing games, I know people are like you should work before you play, but I find like if I get up in the morning and I like play a game first, it's got to be something quick. It can't be nothing that I could just get stuck on for hours. But if it's like a little roguelike or something, playing like one run of it can kind of get my creative brain going because I see like characters in there that I think are cool. I mean,
No, I'll look at video game related stuff for the same reason. I won't necessarily play a game first, but because a lot of my inspiration and ideas come from game or gamings in general, just like gaming in general, uh, I'll look at things like that or things related to it. And like just looking at art and like you go on Twitter, for example, and scroll just for a little bit and you start to see a lot of that anyway. Um, yeah. And also watching people draw or make things, especially traditional art. Uh, it really, it be getting me inspired and it be filling me with ideas. So yeah, I like doing that. And, um, I like drawing early in the morning before like getting into all of the like, the rigmarole you see like on social media and all this other stuff to distract you. I think it's a kind of a good way to kind of, it's quiet, and like the kids and me, like everybody's gone. I'm the only one in the house. So it just kind of just lets me kind of just create something in peace. I'll put on like some jazz or something like that, and I'll be good. And I'll do that for a few hours. I'll do something like that before, like if I have an actual thing I need to work on, like something work related, I'll do that after, because now it's kind of like that's like the warm up phase for me.
Mm. Man, I tried drawing first thing in the morning. Like I tried to do like the get up and grind. I remember getting up at like 8 or something, trying to go straight to the sketchbook. I was miserable. I was like just trying to keep my eyes open the whole time.
Well, I don't get like it's not the first thing I do, because like I get up, um, and I get the kids ready for school, and then it's at least 30 to 40 minutes of like getting them up, getting ready to school, getting them out the door on the bus, and then I come back in the house, and then I'll like make coffee if I'm drinking coffee that day, and then I sit down and I just kind of just drink the coffee. I'm not um, rushing to draw. I'm just kind of just chilling in the morning time, kind of enjoying the morning. And then by the time the coffee's done, it's like, all right, now I'm kind of at the point where I'm ready to maybe start drawing. But I'm just taking my time, to kind of just uh, enjoy the morning in the quiet, and take in some things. Like I don't want to rush to like you get on like Twitter or something and you see all this goofy stuff, and it's more of a distraction than anything else. But if I look at like some art, like particularly like art videos and stuff, um, or just listen to some music, honestly, that to me puts me like in a better creative space in my brain than to just kind of just do something that would just be like, I guess, mindless consumer, type behavior, sitting in front of a screen or something. So yeah, definitely don't want to play no game. I don't want to start the day playing a game, because that to me is like I need to be doing something productive. And for me, playing a game, as much as I liked games growing up, it's not a productive use of my time. But like once I've done work for the day, and it's like the kids probably in bed and something, like, yeah, now if I want to play the game, I think I've earned the right, because like I worked, and I can say that I didn't spend all my time messing around on the game. So, and you can still find inspiration in that too. You playing the game, and especially like a lot of retro indie inspired games, with their sprite work and stuff. I like stuff like that a lot, like UFO 50.
Oh man.
Um, that kind of stuff gives me a lot of ideas, because I like the color palettes and stuff. So
I think
yeah, I think there's merit in that kind of thing for sure.
yeah, I think all the games in UFO 50 are made with like the same like 11 colors or something like that.
Yeah,
See, they have
I like.
they've got it says Mukibo 92 says how do you balance your personal practice versus your art for work?
I think pretty much what I just told you. Um, uh, Stuff that is for work, it takes priority for sure, because I mean, it's usually a deadline associated with that. And so what I try and do is I prioritize the deadline or work related stuff, and then once that's done, then I'm free to do what I want to do. And that's generally how it would go. If I'm working like when I was working full time, um, my first priority is to do that stuff. Usually I have a list of assignments that I need to hit within a certain deadline. So I would try to get through that stuff as much as possible. And then once done with that, then if I want to do something personal, I'll do it then. But yeah, I try to not um like the personal stuff, the stuff I do for fun, the stuff I do for myself. I do it after I do work related stuff. And yeah, that's it.
And mileage comes through asking who do you enjoy watching make traditional art? Got any shout
Uh,
outs?
Anybody really that does it. Um, I actively try and seek out people who do it, like Erin Hunting. She's always done it with her marker work. Um, let me think.
Man,
Cause I honestly, like, I'll go on YouTube and like, I'll just be looking for like videos based on recommendations from past videos. And like Proco is the good channel. They usually have a lot of good videos up on their channel. Um, who else? Uh,
you ever listen to a dude named Alpi Efe? He's like a
yes, he does a lot of painting videos.
yeah, he's
His stuff is
dope.
pretty good. Um, there's a new guy who I've been following. Um, dude named Lion Sensei. He does like digital stuff, but it's a lot of tutorial based stuff. I like his videos a lot. Just straightforward, like how to stuff. Um, who else? Uh, a lot of Japanese artists who I can't, I don't know what the video title is or what their name is even, but like I'll see them doing like either some marker stuff or some like watercolor stuff or some ink stuff. And I'm like, I'm about to watch this because this looks like they can do some good work. And I don't understand anything that they may be saying, but like I just I know how to follow the process. So like I just follow the process. Um yeah, man, it's a bunch of that kind of stuff, man. I be saving that stuff to playlists and stuff where I can. Um, especially anything involving like tutorials and whatnot. And yeah, man, that stuff to me is just what I like to kind of look at when I'm kind of trying to work through ideas or get inspiration or get motivated. Um, seeing other people create things, or even if it's just like looking at pictures that people have done, looking at people's artwork, that's enough too. That can kind of get me motivated as well.
Yeah, those are some good ones. Man, I wish
I'm
that
not a morning person either. I'm not. I had to. I'm forced to be because I got kids. But I mean, it is what it is. Like I had to. You got to learn to adapt to the situation. So
mm,
I used to sleep in. I used to be 10, 11 o'clock sometimes. Man, I'd be in the bed.
that's me, man. I'll be up though. That's the thing. I'll be up till like 3, 4, 4:30 doing work. And so then I get up late, but I don't feel guilty because I did all the work last night, you know?
Yeah. I listen. I won't even be up. I would be sleep. Usually because I was up late, and that's one of them things I had to kind of stop doing. So I normally go to bed. Um, I would say by like latest it would be 12 normally, and earliest I'll probably be in bed around like 10:30, 11. If I'm tired, especially. Um, yeah, I try to get to bed at a reasonable time because I know I gotta be up in the morning. And like some days I might stream on a weeknight and then I'll be hurting in the morning because I got to get up with the kids. And it's just like, my eyes burning, my body feel weak because I didn't get enough rest.
Mm, yeah, for sure.
Got to get sleep. And they get up early regardless. And that just get on my nerves too. Cause I'm just like, why are you, it'd be the weekend. They be getting up at 8. Like, man, stop, man. Go back to sleep. Try to sleep for a little bit longer, man.
Right.
All right.
Like, nah, it's time. It's time for pancakes.
Yeah, man. I hate that mess.
I appreciate the conversation once again. I think this was great conversation. I think that a lot of people have learned from it and that a lot of people will learn from it. So, shoot, I'm
Vote.
excited to.
If I can help others, then that's a job well done.
Yeah. Can you give us can you give us a little outro to let folks know where we can find you? Where if people want to support, do you have anything for sale that people can buy? Is there anything that we can look out for that you have on the horizon for us?
Uh, I am ActionHankBeard on everything. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and all those things. Um, yeah, you can find my shop. I could drop a link in the chat for you actually.
For sure.
Uh, put my original art, put my stickers and things like that. I think everybody's pretty familiar with that. But it's just a way to support me directly. I'm going to be putting some more in there. As I complete them. I just finished like a Gengar, a Ghost Pokemon trio drawing. I'm gonna throw that up there. But yeah, that's where you can find me. That's how you can reach me. And if you want to support your boy, you can do so through the link.
All right. Appreciate
Well,
you once again.
thank you for having me. I'm going to get up on out of here, chat. I need to lay it down. I'm old. So I will catch you guys next time. And Pete, thank you for making me a part of your program.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.